Oh, baby. So what's the cost? Here I am. Uh, so I'm waking up here. It's 9ish. Yeah. And this is what I look when I wake up in the morning. Up with the glasses. I put this on to see what you're saying. But, so what am I thinking about? So a lot of things. Last night's chat was excellent. I think it was. We went through the window. We crossed a barrier, a good barrier. I mean, crossing the barrier was good, right? And and I went back. You know, my process is I kind of go into an elemental shamanic state, and I kind of think about a subject, I meditate on that, and I go look at the video lines, see what I can see, and then I take off. And then you guys join in, and you start laying stuff down, and I keep going, and you guys keep chatting, and it's almost like we're not even looking at each other, but we are psychically, which is the more interesting thing. Then I stop, and I go and read each one out loud. And because I really appreciate your presence, part of, this thing is, I'm your sensei Al Bob, you're my adepts. It's this give and take, and that's what a sensei and adept is. A good adept, keeps their sensei on his toes or her toes. And so I read it last night. It was great. And what I love best about the cadre is its diversity and that you come from all over the place. And I still don't know where 90% are where you are, what gender you are, what species you are, which is great, and because it creates or increases the connection, the acceptance, unconditional love, and that's what this little endeavor is, you know, is and going to take. And last night we really did break through this place where we set aside all our opinions, all our beliefs, and we are taking steps towards being the artist in the first person, the savage, the person who has to, draw that picture on the cave wall. You don't have to, when picking berries and eliminating and fooling around with your friends and that's you can't finding water and shelter. That's you gotta have to do that. But the other, drawing that picture on the cave wall, you don't have to do that. But the artist in the first person has to. Above all, before eating, drinking water, fooling around with your friends, you have to move forward. You have to create because you are totally in love with love's co-creation. Are coming over Saturday to start a show. Well, that's good. Hope they can make it up the hill. So, last night, as I was reading that thing, and I can barely see. You normally see me wearing 2 and 3 pairs of glasses to read the chat. And John, I hope you had a good night's sleep. And there's food on the stove. I made oatmeal without anything in it, right? And the stew is getting to a place of being really yummy. And I have a nice, what is called a mash in the frying pan. So there's plenty of good food to eat. And, when there's snow on the ground and it's cold, it's always good to have something yummy. Yeah, I'm still waking up. If you can't tell, I'm in bed. That's where I am. Yep, but it's there for if you want it. So anyway, um, I was reading the chat last night, and you know, it was great because it was really, as I'm talking away, all of you folks are making things, and then when I go back and read them, it's like me re-remembering what I was saying, and that really enhances the conversation because I read it, talk about it again, but now we're talking about it in a conversation rather than me just going on. So what I came across and didn't realize until I read it like four times, someone was talking, I don't even know if I got it right, but that your country's being invaded by immigrants, right? And and tonight, maybe we need to talk about that because what it was, because it seemed like you're being, you put in a context of being attacked, you know? And my observation of all the news feeds and such, now they're polluted and corrupt, to say the sure, but, um, you know, I'd love to get it from the horse's mouth. So in your town, if the raiding hordes are coming in, I'd love to hear it from you rather than Fox or any of those folks. So that's what I'm going to bring up, and I'm going to talk about the other. And within the construct of a modern liberal, democracy and politics, and the neocon conservative opinion, when you can deconstruct both of those, you realize it's the same thing, two wings of the same corporate bird, same corporate fascist bird, right? So the key to manifesting corporate fascism is divide and conquer. And the most worthy tool in the corporate toolbox is picking out the other. You know, yes, are the richest people in the world. We're zillionaires, and you can barely, put gas in your car. Your kid is sick, and you can't buy that, extraordinarily expensive drug from Big Pharma that keeps you alive. So you can eat more GMO food and breathe more toxic air. And by the way, that fire that happened in your neighborhood was started by a utility transformer, and we passed a law that gives them, you can't sue them, right? We're in a club and you're not. George Carlin was really great. He was a wordsmith beyond belief, and he took, he could have just, you know, he had a point. Again, like last night, we crossed over. He had a place where he was relatively successful in Las Vegas, and he could have been Florence Henderson. He could have just told the jokes that all the drunks out there would laugh at, and he would have got, a couple $100,000 a year. But he was an artist, and what does an artist do? They have to move forward. They have to create something new, not the same thing over and over and over and over and over, And, an actor, an entertainer, they kind of read the script and they give the audience what they want. And the audience has no idea what they want unless the powers that shouldn't be give it to them through the movies, TVs, magazines, etc. And today, the digital platform. So, how 98% of the population is kept in poverty and in shackles is through the projection of the other. You know, Donald Trump is I love that guy because he is right in your face. He's like a stand-up comedian. He is like the it's Superman. It was Superman. He really looked great. He did all the right things. He had the moral character of a saint, and he saved the day. Then there was Bizarro Superman, who was Donald Trump. Farted, vomited in public on top of the children and grandma, stole, murdered, killed, did everything wrong. But, he was Bizarro Superman. It's okay. And it gave the context so the observer could see the difference between the two. I think that's why they brought on Bizarro. And Bizarro Superman was cute. Not cute in that kind of handsome way that Superman was, but cute as like the stupid little baby who does really, you can't even believe that baby did that shit. That was me, rotate camera. I was, that as an infant because, I was making a cyclotron in the basement at 4. And people, all the appliances were hovering in the house. It's like, what the? And, it was so like that I didn't get punished, I get more or less ignored, but, unless I, electrocuted someone or blew something up, they still didn't quite punish me in the like spank, 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 scream, scream, scream. It was like, go to your room and don't come out until I finish drinking this bottle of whiskey, and I can deal with it. And that kind of goes to the next little thing I want to talk about is self-medication, you know? And, drugs and alcohol and sex and overeating and all the above are, a, response to the individual's inability to cope with the things that they're given, right? Now, I was very blessed that I couldn't really do drugs. I mean, they affected me. I mean, the first joint I really smoked, I overdosed on it. Who overdoses and dies from smoking marijuana? And it wasn't dusted and it wasn't angel dust or, PCP or meth or, no, it was just regular, pretty good marijuana. And I had worked in the rock and roll and theater business. I watched everybody smoke it, and no one seemed to die or really get, as wacko as people who got drunk on alcohol, which is another thing I can't do. I can enjoy a glass of wine. I can enjoy, a little really good single malt whiskey. But, I go out with friends. They drink a bottle, and I drink that much, And I drink that much, well, just a little sip. Just put it on my lips, on my tongue. That tastes good. Love the smell. And I don't even get a buzz. Because for me to get a buzz, I got to drink a lot. And then I've only been drunk twice in my life. And, getting there was kind of fun. But, you know, the ramifications of what I was when I was like, wow. So here's you always love a story. So, I'm living on Lower East Side. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I got a lot of friends. I do these Friday night potluck dinners with the cultural hurrah. I'm, working for lots of people. I'm in the art world. I'm in the theater world. I'm in the esoteric technology world. I'm in the occult theology world. I got a lot of things going on. And I'm a dancing fool, right? And I have restaurants and zombie nightclubs and art galleries and all on the down low. And I'm helping to create an aesthetic base called Collaborative Artist Projects Collab in New York City. It still kind of exists, the art galleries that we created, Anyway, so, and I was not, I never liked or wanted to be the guy in the spotlight. I could be up on the stage and I could be on the spotlight for when it needed to happen. When no one, I'm looking around, no, well, somebody's got to do something. Okay, I step in the spotlight. But normally I like staying in the background. Normally I liked being the paramour of creativity. I normally liked being someone's, what's that thing? The inspiration, right? And like, you go out there and say this, and they would. So, and the other thing I really loved doing that my Friday night salons were was that I liked creating in a group, right? So anyway, I've got all these friends. I got all this stuff. People love it when I come to their parties, and because I, cook or tell jokes or stories or whatever, and I bring out the best in other people. So I have a friend, and her brother has just got this big important job in the bank, and he's got a big raise. So he's got more money than he normally has. So he works at a bank, and he gets himself a mortgage, and he buys a building in in New Jersey, in a place called Hoboken, which was like, it's like on the side of the water. But these buildings are beautiful, and they're big, and and, I don't know, 10, 30, 40 grand, but that was nothing for what he had. Fixed it up, and it was like across from a park, and he had a backyard and all these, and he could see Manhattan just across the water, and there was, a ferry that went right over there. So, and the PATH train was over there. So, it was straight to, the World Trade Center where he worked. So anyway, she goes, Al, you have to come with me and cook for my brother because he's had a big important party, and your food would impress him, and you're who you are, and I want to go and rub shoulders with all these rich and powerful people, and you do that all the time, and it'll be great. And I said, I got the flu, I don't want to go. I feel, oh no, you got to go. And she pressures me into go, right? And I get there, and I meet her brother, and I just kind of go into the kitchen, and I'm like, Mammy, I'm not out there in the crowd. I'm like no one's there yet. Anyway, so I'm in the kitchen, and I'm thinking about looking in the pantry and seeing what kind of food's hanging around and what he's got in the fridge and what I'm gonna make. And I really feel terrible, right? And I open up the pantry, and what the heck is in there but VOS, a really nice cognac. And I like cognac. And, my mother used to make hot toddies when I felt this sick. And I said, I'm going to make myself a hot toddy, right? So I make myself a hot toddy, and it's like, the third cast iron teapot, right? And so, well, that's pretty tasty, and I feel a little better. My sinus and my lungs are kind of opening up. Of course, it's like the water I'm boiling that I'm going to make pasta, and I forgot that I put this big pot on with boiling water, and the kitchen is getting to be like a steam room, And so I'm in there, and so I make myself another hot toddy, and I'm feeling even better. I'm no longer, well, maybe this is the medicine my mom. Okay, I made it right. And then what happens is the guests start to arrive, and they're all these rich and powerful people of not just the banking world, not just his bosses from his bank, but from lots of other, because my friend had kind of advertised it as going to be like a salon. So, there are people who from politics, people who were from the media, all of the above. And one of the first people to show up is this guy who I actually worked for when I was a teenager, And and what he was when I worked, he was at Metro Media TV. And he had been during World War II. He was a big radar guy. My dad was in the Air Force, so he knew him from being Mr. Radar Guy. And then years later, when my dad and this guy quit the military, he went into, the radar guy. What is he working with? But microwave. What did microwave used in the 50s before, fiber optics and satellites? They had microwave towers, right? And they would beam information from point to point. And the first people to use this were banking guys because in New York City, they had a whole spider web of these tubes, pneumatic tubes. You know, when you go to the bank and you're on the outside, you drive up and you put the little thing and it sucks it over to the lady and she deposits it and give you a few bucks, right? Well, in Lower Manhattan, like from the Battery to 34th Street, they have thousands of miles of these pneumatic tubes that went to offices and this, so they didn't have to have couriers, right? Just zoop, go right there. And that's where Elon Musk got his idea of having these tube underground railroads that would go, faster than the speed of sound, because these things did. Because they'd evacuate the tube, stick it in there, and there was no friction, right? This tube, this little, pill, this little thing would go flying through the tube, right? Then, after World War II, around the Korean War, they started to have computers, and you can't put that in a tube, so they used microwaves. And, they years later, I was the guy who would hang off the side of the building and put these little microwave antennas that, zipped in from, this is before fiber optics, zipped things from here to there, right? So here's this guy who I go to work for. He's at Metro Media TV, and he was Mr. Microwave. And when television, when they used to shoot news and then put it on the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite, they had it on film. When Kennedy got shot, they had to wait, 6 hours for the fly whatever film they had to, New York and develop it and then put it on TV, edit it, and all the rest. But there were certain points in Kennedy's assassination that they had a live feed, like when his, casket was being put on the airplane in Dallas in the evening. They had a live feed because they had a microwave guy. This guy was there, right? And so he's, out of the Air Force, he's still got his flat top and he's working for Metro Media and he's their microwave guy, right? So they send him about 2 weeks before Kennedy goes to Dallas. They say, listen, Kennedy's going to be at Dallas and it's going to be a pivotal point in his, the next election and whether he's going to have LBJ, and that's what, this is LBJ's town. And so you go there and set up your base station with the microwave and get that all working. And then we're going to send you by courier where we want your cameras. Okay, so he does that. And so he... Hey, Jamie. Jamie, I got a question to ask you. Last night, and I'll go back to this, I'm putting the morning ramble on pause. Last night, somebody was talking about how the Muslims have invaded Ireland and are burning cities. What's going on? What? And you made some kind of remark, and I was like, huh? But I was just going on, so I wasn't, right in on it. So am I, I went back and looked at the chat after Blue Water kind of said, hey, what was that, And so you give that a thought. and I'll go on with the story. So there I am at you know, my friend's brother's place, you know, drinking hot toddies, and I'm trying to get over, you know, feeling terribly ill. And this story is about self medication, right? So I have the flu. My friends talked me into being a chef at her brother's important thing, and then being the entertaining artist amongst all the rich and powerful. So, you know, what happens is one of the first guests is this guy I used to work for at Metro Media. And he was in charge of all things technical at Metro Media, you know, which was, you know, there's CBS, ABC, NBC. In Metro Media, there was two or three small Hearst, others. Had, I don't know, 20, 30 stations across the country, had stations in large markets like New York and Chicago and Dallas. And anyway, so this guy shows up, right? And so he was a guy at 15. Instead of working for Grandpa Stoll, my dad got me this job at Metro Media, and I went to work for this guy. And he was in charge of all things technical. And he was a stone ass drunk, right? And he drank wine at night and vodka during the day. And so I went to work for him, and no one wanted to work for this guy because he was a stone cold drunk and he was a nasty guy. And I showed up as this little peanut, happy-go-lucky, who knew a lot about, you know, technical stuff. And so he just said, go to, and I would go do it, right? And he sent out a memo saying, I have a new assistant, his name's Al, and you obey him like you would obey me. And I'm like 14, 15. And there's, you know, 60 guys who, you know, doing the technical job, and I am now their boss. And he thought that was just such a hoot, right? So, and, you know, me, that was kind of fun, but I wasn't the jerk, you know? I went and talked to each person individual and said, what do you do? Explain it to me. Show me. I want to learn. And they were like, wow, I thought this was going to be bad, but he's actually making me better because he's now giving me because that moron gave him the authority. He's giving me the authority, and I don't have to look over my shoulder. He's just like, oh, well, you know what you're doing? Keep on. And I would just come in and once in a while visit and shoot the breeze. And, you know, as long as nothing came negative down the pipeline, I just kept, you know, reinforcing everyone. I was the team player. I was like the ingenue, the muse, right? This is at Metro Media, right? Anyway, so I made, you know, they were about to fire this guy, but now they're like, hey, Bob, you know, we're really not me, the Bob, but him, Larry, you know, you've kicked the juice. You're doing your job. Oh, good. You don't have to worry about getting fired. So he kind of said, he started to get a little more less drunk and a little more clear-headed, and he was, you're all right, kid. So we became, I was like his only friend. He's like, 50 something years old, and I'm 15. And I was the guy he would talk to. I would go around, make sure everything was humming along, and then we had this office upstairs, and I had my little cubicle, and he had this big office, and we just hang out. You want a drink, kid? No, Larry. And I would drink water, and he had bottled water. Anyway, so we would talk, and he would tell me stories, because the war stories and all that kind of stuff, and stories about my dad. And then he once we got really, one day I came in after him getting, more and more sober. I came in and he was drunker than I ever seen him. And I said, Larry, what is wrong? What is up? And he said, and I said, buddy, here, let's take that vodka bottle away. Here's a bottle of water. Because he had all this bottled water, so people would think that clear stuff he was drinking in a glass was bottled water. So anyway, he tells me that he had a really bad dream. And why he drinks is because of the nightmares. And I said, it's about the war? He goes, no, not really. I have a few of those, but no. The recurring dream is the assassination of JFK. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I never really told you, but I was there. What? He goes, yeah, and he tells me the whole story about he's Mr. Microwave for CBS, and most of the news is shot on film and flown back, blah, blah, blah. And he is sent to Dallas to put up the microwave and set up the cameras. Now, you know, JFK is supposed to be having a big speech at the Cow Palace in Dallas, right? And he thought he'd, go set up there. But his bosses sent him, no, you're going to set up outside of Dallas's courthouse sheriff's office, right? We got a little corner in the, parking lot there that has a line of sight. This is one of the other places that has a line of sight to the nearest microwave tower that we can just, chain it back to New York. And so he goes, okay. So he sets that equipment up. And then he goes, now what? Where do I put the cameras? And they said, well, we're going to send you a courier. They sign for it, and we'll show you, blueprints, etc., where we want you to put the cameras and how to run the lines and all the above, right? So the courier shows up, and it's not the Cow Palace. It's in the basement of the police department, the sheriff's office, right? Where the police cars come down. It's got like a big parking garage down there when they bring in, people instead of like walking them, they kind of drive them in and then they take them into the jail. So anyway, so he, puts up the equipment and puts the lines in, the feeds in, but he still hasn't been told where to put the cameras because you got to set them on platforms and, scope them in and all this kind of stuff. So about a day before Kennedy shows up, he gets another courier. Okay, you're going to put the cameras in the basement, the parking garage of the sheriff's office. And here's a blueprint, and here's exactly where they are. And the sheriff has got the cones out where you're going to put the platforms and the cameras up, right? And what we want you to do is where the camera is focused. Let's see. I fed up with immigrants, though it's still behind their front door, and it whispers it's worse for the Brits, or again, the mainland Europeans. Main reason for Brexit, no doubt. Yep. The main gripe is they generally won't work or integrate into indigenous culture. Cities burning may not be far off. Okay, they're not burning now. Okay. Immigration in the 60s were quite opposite, generally speaking. Okay, so I'm putting the story of JFK and my television boss on hold, and we're going into this. So let us focus on the immigration of the 60s were quite opposite, generally. So that's, you're saying that they were kind of okay, that they were kind of accepted. So give me a little 411 on what that was like, what that was, and what's the difference between now and then. And the real question is the opposition to immigration. Is it mostly or partly or kind of being brought forth by media? Like Donald Trump, that whole thing of, he's a response to the fact that everybody in America, the 98% of the public, it's like me, homeless, poor, you know, you know, one, why I have to put my feet in a real careful place is that if I fall, if I hurt myself, yes, I've dragged myself back from death's door, but if I go back being sick, man, that's it for me. And, I'm doing this so I can't get sick. But the rest of America is like they're in a quandary. And now that we're shut down, I mean, that's why Donald Trump's great, because he brings everything to the forefront. But him as a hero, forget about it. He was going to drain the swamp and get rid of all the rich people in Congress. His whole friggin' cabinet is white men from, banking, All the guys were in there were generals, who loved war. That makes the thing that makes America the most money is war. Boeing, Lockheed, they love war, And so the concept of, your life sucks. We don't want you to look at us, the rich, and blame us. So we're going to point to the Mexicans and say it's their fault because, I'm the guy who looks at statistics and numbers. And, right now in the United States, we have less crime than in recorded history, right? Because everyone's old. Young people make crime. And that's what's happening like in France, you know? Let's see. Okay. Now, immigrants who, like, I grew up in Harlem, right? And Harlem wasn't all black people. East Side, Second Avenue, every 3 blocks, Lithuanians, Germans, Italians, Irish, and Jewish, and every, you name it. And within those things were like all the different flavors of Lithuanians, all the, so, and they all, it wasn't a melting pot. It was a salad bowl. There were all these separate little neighborhoods, right? Because these people came out the boat. They didn't speak English. It wasn't until the second generation that they amalgamed into American culture. And the fact that in Harlem, there were no policemen, there was no crime, because the people who kept the law were the grandmas. They were like hanging out the window, sitting on the steps. Don't do that. I'll tell your grandma. And that's Ireland. And that whole cohesiveness of what I remember Ireland in the 70s and 80s was like cohesiveness. And once Ireland joined the EU and they drank the Kool-Aid of the Euro and forgot all their Celtic roots and just went for their Audi, that has a lot to do with when this other comes in, right? Fits right into one of my topics, the other. Because I saw Nancy Pelosi, our new Democratic, leader, right? And she was giving a speech about economic disparity, right? That lady has $140 million in the bank, in her piggy bank, and she made it in Congress because they wrote laws that said it was okay for senators and congressmen to take advantage of the knowledge they have by writing laws that are going to manipulate corporations and buy stock before anybody knows better. That's why she has $140 million. And she is talking about, the disparagements, and she's talking to this group that's disparaged and don't know. And there's a person in the peanut gallery. He goes, Nancy, how much money do you have in the piggy bank? Where did you? And that person knows about Nancy and how she passed laws when she was in San Francisco to own property. And she knows that Nancy passed laws during, like Nancy went for going into Iraq, is that she owned a ton of stock in Halliburton. So the peanut gallery is going on about this. And people are starting to boo that person who has the knowledge on the 411 on Nancy. And they drag, I mean, the person goes without a squawk, but keeps, heckling Nancy, and they beat her up. It's a woman. They freaking beat her up. Now, the best way for the ruling class to keep the, useless eaters, pretty much all of us, in line is to have us divide the blacks against the whites, the men against women, the Greeks against this, the Italians against, oh, they're terrible. What did Hillary say? They're a basket of deplorables. So it's kind of hard to get a job when you've just run away from a war zone and half your family's dead and you're in shock, and you have PTSD, and you end up in Ireland and you're from Fallujah or from Syria, and and I visited Iraq and Syria in the early '70s, before when everything was like under wraps. And I was coming from Sweden, and so my visa said I was Swedish. So and I went in those countries, and they were better than everyone went to school, everyone was educated, everyone was doing relatively well. Both those countries were not religiously motivated. I mean, everybody was Muslim, everybody went to mosque, but everyone had a job, and everyone was paying the rent. Then basically the neocons, Mr. Rumsfeld and Mr. Cheney. Go see that Cheney movie, Vice. Really tells the story. And basically, they wanted to make a lot of money. I mean, Halliburton was about to go in the tank, and we attacked Iraq, and they're now $1 trillion company. Because they got all the contracts, and they didn't even have to bid. You know, and all of this goes to the fact of why 2 million people came from a wave, and that wave was pushed into Europe by the ruling class. They wanted to destroy and disrupt the the social fiber of Europe, of the EU, right? And they had gotten everything they wanted out of globalization, and now they wanted to go into tribalization. And the I'm going to take just a short little clip over here. So when I got really sick in Roanoke, and I had no place to stay, and I was thrown out onto the bus, and I had to, where am I going to, sleeping in my car? You know, I can't just sit around and do nothing. Even if I'm not going to get paid, I go do something. So once I was out of the woods and getting better, I went to all the political people I knew, and all the social people I knew, and all the church people I knew. I said, "Hey, listen, Roanoke has a real opportunity here. We can really make it something great." This is like 4 years before Donnie came up with make it America great again. He didn't come up with it. Reagan used it, Nixon used it, Kennedy used it, Ike used it. Anyway, so, and I wrote my little papers about it because, why did I come to Roanoke 20 years ago? It's a microcosm of America. So I said, okay, this is my chance to take all my little ideas and, inject them into the body politic of Roanoke. And all these people, they've known me for years. I've done really interesting things for them. And so I kind of have their ear. I kind of have their access. So this one guy, so this bunch of what I call sock puppets, the usual suspects of the left. And, I was pretty involved in the Occupy thing here. The first 5, 6 months, it was pretty cool. And then it just became the same old same. So I just went and visited and really, it wasn't going to go anywhere. It wasn't going to really, build a momentum. And it was actually counterproductive. Those kind of things are counterproductive because why does the ruling class let things like that happen? Why they let demonstrations? Because it lets people blow off steam, and then they don't do anything. They don't really organize. This is very clear on this subject. He's horrible, and his logic can't be dispelled. Yep. Let's just touch base with you, you guys. Except as much, but I want to work, yes, Lithuania, divide and rule, power, not exactly how right? Yep, uniter, yes you are. Yep. All of us are people, right? I have to, because I'm sick and I'm begging for crumbs from the social safety net, I'm right there. I see what you're talking about, right? And it's quite interesting. Here I am, a well educated white guy, But because of circumstances, I'm homeless and have no money, right? So I'm trying to get food stamps or whatever, Social Security, and I'm in these waiting rooms, right? And basically, if I had been a vet or a paroled convict or any one of the usual suspects, I would be pushed right through the system because then I fit statistically. But because I'm a well-educated, scholar, not even a teacher, scholar, that is not blocked by prejudice. That I have an open mind, and when I go into something, yeah, I'm begging for survival, but I'm also there as Sensei Al Bob. So if somebody needs to me to talk to them and listen to them and give them a little 411, I do, no matter who they are. And that's why the power structure kind of accepts me and wants to talk, and they take me out to lunch and slip me a Kroger card every now and then, but they won't hire me. This one lady who was like kind of in charge of the world, she was one of the managers, was at this meeting that I kind of found myself in because they were stuck. And they wanted some kind of outside the box thing. So somebody, hey, we've got this meeting. We'll buy you a nice lunch. It's going to be at the Hotel Roanoke or blah, blah, blah. Okay, show up. So we had this meeting. They kind of, right there we make an outline of look at this, and I'm going to go back and we build up this like little working group, and I'm going to go back and write a bullet page, and then we're going to take it from there. So we do that, and these people, they're from the state capitol, they're from here, they're from there, and but they're the powerful guys, chambers of commerce, bankers, politicians. So anyway, we're at this, two or three times, and it's nice. They're actually giving not only buying me a meal, but they're giving me a little envelope, and it's very nice. So not as sweet as you guys, but very nice. So almost equal to what I'm giving them. But A, I wanted access to these people. B, I wanted to see what they were, what the barometer of what was going on was, and C, maybe I could inject a little something that'll change the whole group for the better. Anyway, so we get to a point, and everyone's read my paper, and we kind of discuss it, and it's like obvious, not going to go anywhere. So we're going to break for lunch, and everyone's sauntering out to go over to the nice restaurant. And that's pretty much why everybody was there. Is just so they were getting an envelope too, but probably way bigger than mine. And they were there for the lunch. And so the lady who basically, I right off the bat, of the 20 people there, she's in charge. And anyway, so we're sauntering out, and I let this. My legs weren't working that good, so I let everyone leave, so I don't have to go through. I kind of walk slow, and anyway, she's waiting there, and I'm sitting down. She's sitting down. Everybody gets up, talks, walks out, and they're heading for lunch. And she goes, Let's talk for a little bit." And I go, "Okay." She goes, "I've heard about you for a number of years, and now I meet you, and you're quite impressive, and I really you remind me of a number of teachers I've had, and you kind of ended up like them. They were scholars, they weren't scholastics, they didn't want to get tenured, they just wanted to do what you do, and they pretty much all died the way you're going to die." It was like, "Gee, thanks." And so she goes, "Listen, we're never going to hire you. You keep saying, instead of taking me out to lunch, give me a job. We did hire you. You did work in the corporate work. And what did it do? It nearly killed you. And it nearly killed you, and now you've come back from death and you pretty much have resigned yourself not to do that again. So we can't own you, you know? And your biggest problem within the context of what you do with us is that if you were a Republican, if you were a Democrat, if you were conservative, if you were a liberal, if you were a communist, it doesn't matter. If you were just one thing that we could put you in a box, we'd give you a job. We'd pay a lot of money. We did. That's what you were getting. That's why you were at the corporate scene, right? And we needed you then. We don't need you now. We have replaced you with, an algorithm. You know, we've replaced you with an app. And that gives us a better answer than what you gave us. the answer that would fix it. We didn't want it. We just wanted the answer that would get us past that moment. Right? And that's why you're here right now, and why we're letting you in this room and we're reading your little white papers and we're giving you that envelope, right? But you're never getting the job because you want the best outcome for everyone. And that's not our business plan. That's not how this works. And she goes, you know this, you know? And so I respect you. You know, you have what I don't have, and that is a moral backbone, you know? So, you know, I'm glad I met you, you know, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. And somewhere down the line, you're a smart guy. You're gonna figure out how to get over this hump, and this hump is gonna be, you know, I looked at your career. Every time you've come up an obstacle, it's been really a good thing for you because it pushed you further outside the box to the point you really saw something, right? So that's kind of what the structure is. So I'm really sick. I'm working for all these things, and I'm and the usual suspects, you know, the Black Lives Matter and the Me Too, and before it was even that, all the environmentalists and blah blah blah. They don't want to get anything done. They don't want to change anything. They don't want to make things better. They just want to get up in the spotlight. I know all these guys, and you know, I'm like their Papa Smurf. Oh, you got to come to this meeting. We're going to make a new Democratic Party. I go, really? And I'm not feeling good, you know. So I would walk. You know, they'd all be in there 20 minutes before you know, we all got there at the same time. It took me 20 minutes to walk up the steps, and they do it in a place. You know, this is a lack of respect. They do it in a place where you have to go up 2 flights of steps. You know, there's a whole room. You know, this is a big church. There's some room down here that I could just saunter in from the sidewalk, but no, they're going up there, right? And they could pick any room, right? So you know, I'm not a happy chappy by the time I saunter in their thing, and they're meeting once a week. They're making a new Democratic Party, and it's just such full of crap. It's unbelievable. So I'm not feeling good. So I would, you know, come in, and the medicines I'm taking make me vomit and you know, projectile diarrhea, right? So the one good thing about this room is it's got a bathroom right there, right? So every time I have to vomit, I just kind of click, go over there, and I leave the door open, you know, and go back. You know, every time I have to projectile diarrhea, I sit on and there's no stall. You know, I'm like LBJ. I keep the door open, you know, and they're too lazy to get up and close the door. I kind of have to leave the door open because it's not a handicapped bathroom, and if I close the door, I'd never get out. So, so you know, right, and the sound of this thing shooting out, and then the smell, you know. And do they close the door? No. Do they open the door? No. Then, luckily, this room had a couch. I don't sit at their table. I just kind of go over and meditate on the couch, and you know, I don't go into state. I kind of go to sleep, and I'm snoring, right? Then, but I'm listening to everything they say. So why they keep me coming back is every now and then I kind of open my eyes and say something that they're going, oh, we didn't think of that. Thanks, Al. So they're the useless. And there's this one guy, of all the sock puppet useless pieces of crap, there's this one guy who's kind of, you know, does stuff, right? He's you know, he's a minister and he's socially active, blah blah blah, right? Okay, and I never really, I just kind of watched him from afar, and at these meetings, he'd be the only one who would kind of speak up, like saying, "You guys, you know, forget it. This is like, you know, better than the other Democratic Party." Yes, John.
It's not John, it's Trump.
Come on in, Donnie.
It's Trump.
Come on in, Donnie.
I just woke up.
Come on, Donnie, come on in. Open the door. Close the door because it's cold. You either come in or go out, you know.
I'm 78 years old. This is Trump. I got lost in the woods. Help me. The government's coming to get me now. I had to hide out here.
No. Go on downstairs.
Wait, what are you going to help me, Al?
Yes, later, John.
They took all my money, my cash, my ass.
Uh-huh.
My ass is itchy, and I woke up and I got like an elephant's tail ass, and I don't feel that good. and I'm naked, and I
So am
just
I.
thought somebody.
But you're making me very cold, Donnie. Close,
Oh,
close. I'll be back. I'll be
listen,
down in a second.
I'm awake, so I'm here. I'm hiding
Okay.
out from the government and everything. It's Trump, and hiding away in the woods.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm used to getting whatever the heck I have, whatever I feel like.
Right.
So I'm gonna be a jerk here and there if you can deal with it. But I'm hiding out here now.
Okay. I'll be down and we'll
Okay,
we'll,
it's
we'll
just me
talk.
and you,
Yeah.
like Sloth and Chunk.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm Chunk. I'm Trump.
Yeah.
Chunk. You're
Yeah.
Sloth.
Okay.
We're gonna be friends now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're friends now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I'll be
I
right
gotta
down.
go. It's
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. Close the door.
I
I'm
gotta talk to you
freezing.
later.
Right.
John's
Right.
here too. You might have
Okay.
seen him open the door a little bit. He
Okay.
was next to me. I was hiding behind him trying to
I'm
get
John, Johnny. I'm freezing.
Okay.
Okay.
I like my butt. You know, it looks good. It has good
Buddy,
hair on it.
you're freezing
There's
me
no
out
hair
here.
on it.
I'll be
It's
down.
smooth.
I'll be down in
It's
a
like
sec.
it's smooth.
You either
Like
come
a
in or
glass.
close the door, please.
Okay, I
I'll be
gotta
down
go.
in a bit. I'll be down in a
I
bit.
gotta go. Use the bathroom.
Okay.
Wipe my backside. I gotta go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the chat. Divide and rule. Donnie's going on about, there was Donnie at the door. Donnie goes on about fake news. Well, fake news has been fake since, Mesopotamia, since the Babylon bankers. I'm going to have to go listen to Milo. Jimmy Dore is pretty good. I like him. He cuts the chase. So Donnie is great because he was like me in that room of sock puppets, right? But he does it in front of, he tweets to a billion people. And he's no more corrupt, no more dishonest, no more stupid, no more any of the above. As Nancy Pelosi is the mirror image of Donald, right? But Donald is more there. He's from New York. He always, his daddy always bailed him out. Cohen was always his mentor, the lawyer. The really Darth Vader, or really the Empire. Anyway, so back to where I was. Where was I? I had so many threads going, and Downey just blew it away. Oh, yes. The usual suspects, and I'm really not feeling good. So, this guy, who's, I think is okay, and he's really a poster boy. I mean, he's in his mid-50s, but he's kept himself in shape, and he looks really good. And he looks like a, movie star. He's definitely a poster boy. So there's a church in the middle of town, right in the middle, like just across the street from, the police department, just down the block from all the court buildings, just as, a few more feet to the city hall where the mayor is, the seat of power, Channel 10, the TV station right in town, not the one that's, covering other parts of the county, is right there. And he says to me, Al, can you give me a hand? And I go, what's, he says, well, they just made me minister of this church right here, and it's dying. Last year they had 80 old people, now they got 40. They all died of that flu, and they don't want their church of 150 years. I mean, it's a beautiful church. And Roanoke is a city of churches, 600 of them, right? And they all do nothing except pass the plate. So these guys are pretty well endowed. I mean, they had invested, money in the Nazis, and so they got a lot of stock and things were going. Even during '08, they didn't lose their investments. The basement, they got a vault with gold in it. Anyway, so he goes, they want to hire me because I'm the picture of youth. And I said, yeah, you are, buddy. It's like he's made a deal with the devil and Dorian Gray. You know what I mean? So he goes, and I have this image of being a social activist. And he's, it's just him and me. He goes, I'm no social activist. You are. So why don't you come to work at the church? And, I'll give you carte blanche to do whatever the heck you want. And this is great. And the church is beautiful. Beautiful sanctuary, amazing community room with a big kitchen and classrooms. They used to teach, It's like, okay, I can do whatever I want. Yep, I won't, you can do whatever you want. Okay. So I said, what are you going to pay me? He said, oh, I'm not going to pay anything. There's nothing in the budget for you. And I go to myself, okay, so right in the middle of all the power, the last 40 people who are left in this church are all white, and they're all, Chamber of Commerce, bankers, they own everything. Well, what better little cheeky monkey than me to go in there and just pull their chain, not in the most nicest of ways, right? So I go, sure, I'll do it, because what else did I have, right? I had nothing, right? So this is at least something. And he gives me the key to get in. Don't tell anyone you got this, right? So that Sunday I come and I walk in and I look like a homeless. I am a homeless guy. I'm living in my car. So I basically hobble in there after everyone's shown up. And the guy says, hey, and this is he's a new member of our church, Al, and he's going to be a volunteer. And they basically they hired him because they wanted him to be a socially conscious minister, not like the rest of the sock puppets of the other 600 churches. And they didn't tell him how to be it or what to be it. They gave him some money. They're paying him a lot of money. That he's like, this is like his payday. Cha-ching. So, and he's going to help me, right? And I kind of hobble in and sit down. And they kind of look at me like, huh. Well, next Sunday, I come in and I come in like before anybody else, and I'm sitting there. So as people stroll in, get up, go over there. Hi, how you doing? What's your name? So there's only 40 of them. And so for the next 3 Sundays, I talk to each one individually. Like each Sunday, I talk maybe to 5, 10 people. And I sit next to the one who's the loneliest, the one who needs the most encouragement, the one, you know, I go and I sit down and I get the 411 of everybody, right? Then I start coming in and there's the secretary, right? And I sit and listen to her, tell her story, everything, and I support her. Then there is this guy who runs the soup kitchen, which is not he doesn't feed anybody. He just calls it that so he can go to the place where they give free food away, and he puts it in the lotter. He takes half of it. So anyway, so and this is how churches work. This is how they're institutions. They're part of the military, industrial, social, banking, education, media, and religious, you know, enterprise, institution. This is the ruling class. Churches are the ruling class. And look at Ireland, guys. Why are you gave up the Catholic Church for the euro, right? Uh, on YouTube. Well, and that's one of the things that is going to make Dreamy Dreamland. No one gets censored here. No, no one. If you're having a bad day, we are your cadre. We're gonna like go and hug you and say, "So tell us what's wrong. Come on," because that perspective will be the best. And Inc. in Ireland, if you went to the huddled masses that are coming into your country, that the immigrants that you don't like, if you went to them, don't give them money. Don't what's up? Hey, I'm your neighbor. What's let's talk, right? Because every country has immigrants. We all came from someplace else. And that's the best thing about America. That's in our DNA. They can just, and all through our history, we have had somebody like the Muslims, somebody like, the Mexicans, back in, between 1890 and 1910, the Italians were like the Muslim Mexicans. They made it treasonable to be Italian. threw them out of the country. I mean, literally, look at the Japanese. We put them in concentration camp. Those people were citizens. They had been here like 5 generations. All the young, strong Japanese men, they didn't put them in that concentration camp. They drafted them and sent them to Italy, and they got more decorations than any other racial group. The Japanese did. I don't like them. I just don't involve myself. Well, maybe you should, buddy. You know. I constantly push myself out of my comfort zone. Look, I'm homeless with nothing. If that isn't pushing yourself out of I went from being a rich guy owning lots of property, living in the swimming pool of chocolate mousse, working for the corporate world, and the worst part of the corporate world, the desperate lawyers, to this, because I had to go experience that to understand what's going on. And now I'm here experiencing this, right? So, and I am really looked at the other, if I hadn't been in this town for 20 years and done a lot of stuff, because half the people in these bureaucratic things, I got them their job. And when I hobble in and they start filling out forms and I don't fill in, like every time I fill out, and I can't barely see, so I say, I can't see, you got to help me write this out. So I fill out what I can, and where it says race, I always put human, and they get really upset with that, and they have to erase it and put in white. And, so I'm a cheeky monkey, and I am, I'm your Sensei Al Bob. And so I'm there to teach them too. Now, the smart people realize that and take me out to lunch. The really rich and powerful, understand. And, and they've known me long enough, so they know that I have a moral backbone, and I'm not going to, when I did work for the corporate world, they were like, wow, good, that's Al's doing, he's joining the club, right? But then when the information kind of trickled down that, well, he's working, he's a contract guy. He hasn't joined the club. And at a certain point when I got really sick, his body his soul is rejecting the corporate hegemony. Well, he'll just die. Well, I didn't. So now I'm doing this. So I went to work for that church, right? And I spun that place up, because I had the keys to the castle. I could do whatever the heck I wanted. I first went in slowly and got everyone in that church to like me. And then I started slowly doing social things, like their sanctuary. I started having using it as a theater and music, bringing in culture, the traveling video art circus, the Humanities Artist Trust, right? International. That's what I was turning this church in. That's where I got the idea. I was going to turn that church into that, right? Because all those old people are going to die anyway, like tomorrow, before me. And so then I was working over in the other section of town, the poor people, not just the black, the poor people. And I started bringing poor people in, right? And I met these two Jamaican women, and there's they had this community room downstairs, like a restaurant, beautiful kitchen, big garland stove, big refrigerators, big sinks, big everything. You could feed 500 people. And they used to, back in the day, because they had this school there and they used to feed everybody. And so these two Jamaican grandmas, really Jamaican food, like from the days I lived in Jamaica. So I said, and we want to start a restaurant. It's so hard, all the licensing. Well, we have no money. I said, hey, if I give you an opportunity to have a restaurant, you have to pay for nothing. You don't have to pay electric bill, don't have to pay gas bill, don't have to pay rent, don't have to file anything, don't have to pay taxes. How about that? This is like, shades of my dumpster restaurants in New York. And they go, wow, sure. So I bring them in there, meet the pastor. He likes them. He's like, oh, the poster boy. And anything I did that he could get like notoriety for, that the TV cameras, the newspapers would say it was his idea, fine. Because everyone in that town knows, if I'm standing there, I made it happen. So I bring them together and they start doing it. And the food is coming out of the church's pantry that they've been stocking up for the last, so. And the way the women didn't have to pay taxes is that basically it was run under the auspices of the church, a nonprofit, and they weren't charging. It was a donation, right? And as I was like the maitre d'. As people came in, I would say, "Hi, welcome to," and I called it the No Fear Cafe. And I did that because it was right by the court building, right by the three police departments, right by the federal building, and on the street it was. At one end was the YMCA, and the other end was the mission. And the mission throws the homeless people out on the street after they had their breakfast at 8. And then from 8 till 5, they got to roam around and find some place to go. And the library won't let them stay there for more than 40 minutes, and then they say, you got to get out. Then they got to go out in the cold and stay out for 40 minutes, and then they can come back in. And if they don't do that, they get arrested. And every institution all the way around has that. And the only kind of one is the YMCA lets them come in, and they have a special little thing that if they are backed by a church or a thing or that, they will let them come in, right? So they go in and they're in the steam room, they're in the showers, they're in the places you can sit down, and they stay warm, right? And they're not bothering anyone. They're not going crazy, they're not trying to steal and there's a lot of everybody, right? Black, white, all different. That's the beauty of Roanoke. It's very diverse. So anyway, I'm spinning this church up, 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 and on Tuesdays I have this thing called Action Tuesday, meaning any group, if you're going to do something active, if you're going to organize for something for good, not just talk about blah, 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 you can come in and have a meeting, right? No problem. I don't care where you're coming from, left, right, center, up, down. I don't care. But you can come in. But you got to be there to do social good, right? And so then, people like the Quakers, they had lost their building. And so I kind of let them in. I let other people who wanted to have a religious kind of a thing, based on their, whether they're going to do something for the people, right? So that's doing pretty good. Action Tuesday. And so I get a call, the girl who's working, and this guy, the minister, he basically knows how to play the game. So he has all of his staff that he would have to pay for out of his budget. There's this thing called Vista, and they have these volunteers, and he knows how to sign them up, and he's got them working like slaves at his church, and his budget doesn't have to pay for him. Actually, he gets money from Vista to employ these people, and their paycheck is being paid by Vista. So this guy knows how to play he's got me running his church, making it look unbelievable, and I don't get a penny. I said, why don't you put me on the Vista? So you're too old, you're too this, you're too that. Anyway, but I'm running it, so I don't care. And people in the liberal world see what I'm doing, so they're giving me Kroger cards, and life is somewhat good. And I'm, up here at school, and then I get thrown to the bus in the middle of a snowstorm. So, I got the keys. I start staying in the church. They have all these beautiful rooms that they never use, and there's this one with beds in it. So, I'm sleeping there. And so I wake up with the sun. I leave. I go down to Texas Tavern and have breakfast and saunter in around 8:30 when everyone's there, right? So they're not seeing that I'm sleeping there. I don't wake up and go, oh, So I make the coffee. I do all the little things. It's just like at the Hambu with Sensei in Putney, Vermont. I'm doing that same kind of gig, but I'm running the whole friggin' place, right? And the people from Vista, they got issues, so I'm being the psychotherapist of the frigging place, right? So actually, everything's humming along great. We got the No Fear Cafe, and I bring people in, and I tell the people who obviously got money in their pocket, the cops, the judges, the lawyers, say, hey, this is voluntary. You can put money. How much should we put in? I said, well, how much you got in your wallet? And that's how I would leave it, right? Some of those rich, they put 40, 50 bucks, $10, $5, $20, whatever. But I went to the mission, and I told the people at the mission, come on, you can have a free meal. You can stay here for a couple hours in the warmth, right? And so I'd be the maitre d', and I would sit, a judge, a lawyer, some lady who worked in an office, homeless guy, Someone out of the hospital, someone out of the jail, a couple cops. I put because they had these big tables I could seat about 10 people, and they'd be in a circle, all looking at each other, right? So I'd sit them down, I'd sit down there with them, and I'd start a conversation about, well, what about this in our city, and how do you think we could fix that? And Judge, what do you think about this kind of sentencing? And officer, how do you deal with Bob here, who's like me, that you see as a homeless guy and a threat, and what about that kid that just got shot in front of the pharmacy downtown, and he just had a toy gun, and just because he was black, the police showed up and shot him in the head, and I would have start everyone, all these tables, having a conversation, and when I did that the first 2 months. And I was a maitre d'. I wouldn't stay at that table. I'd get the conversation going, go to the next table, right? And seat people and do this, right? Well, within the first month, they're making, and all of the money that went into the donations went to the grandmas, period. That's how I set it up. So they're making some interesting money, and they're not having to pay taxes on it, and they're not having to pay an electric bill, the phone bill, no bills, right? And they're doing what they love, cooking Jamaican food like Jamaican grandmas. And that food tastes just like that. Everyone's coming really for the food, but they're like leaving, telling, shaking my hand and go, this was great. This was great. I loved having that conversation. Da da da. So I got a little sick, ended up in the hospital. And, because I'm sleeping in, really rough, yeah, I'm sleeping in the church, but it's got mold and must and dust. And anyway, so I get sick and I end up in the hospital for a few days. And the hospital is the emergency room, meaning the hallway, right? And that's, you want to get the plague, go to an emergency room. And so I was lucky, again, lemons to lemonade. I was, being Sensei Al Bob there. So I kind of took over the hospital, especially the important people at the top. They would come and talk to me and then take me out to lunch and then slip me a few bucks. And after, I didn't need to be in the emergency room, one of the head guys on the board of the hospital, got me a room in the Holiday Inn. He says, well, don't spend a year here, but you can stay here as long as you need until you really find a place. I said, okay. That's how it works out for me. So I'm back at the church, and what has happened is I'm gone for, not quite a week, but the no fear thing has dropped off because Tim, excuse me, that's not his name, the pastor has now been, he's done what I'm doing, but he's not, he's putting all the police at one table, all the homeless at one table, and all the, right, and all the people who aren't rich. He goes, he doesn't, he tells everyone, oh, it's a donation, but he goes to the homeless guy and says, if you want this meal, you got to pay at least donate at least $10. He doesn't tell the rich guy that. And the dynamic totally stops. And when I come back, everyone's fighting. The old ladies are fighting with their son-in-law and, their daughters. And because they were making some serious buck that, months. And then it fell per tip, I mean, everyone was going to cut of the pie, right? And the pastor kind of, drove it into the ground. Now, I'm not stuck to anything. I don't care, I put it up. It was really successful when I was spinning it up. I walk away from things once they're spin up. And the smart folks keep it spinning. The folks who are egocentric, it's all about them, drive it into the ground. Anyway, but I'm still got the keys to the place. And that's when Homeboy says to me, oh, you can't stay here anymore. I said, well, I'm not staying here. He said, I know you're staying here. And I said, but I'm really down low. No one sees me. He goes, you can't. I said, has anyone said anything? No, he just can't. He doesn't want to. And, he's starting to get this like little bit of a blowback in that, yes, they're really happy. They're getting all these kudos from all the other churches. This church is being amazing. It's doing, They like that, right? They like all the fun stuff that's going on. They liked coming to lunch. But now poor people are here, and black people are here, and women who are uppity are here, and who aren't just passive aggressive, and people are talking and about things that we don't want to talk about. And they're so that the thing I used to go to is their Bible study, right? And there was this lady who knew nothing about the Bible, but she knew the Bible. And she told us what we should know about the Bible. Come on. You're not going to tell Sensei Al-Bab this. So I would come in with all different books before anybody sauntered in. She'd be in there getting her class ready. And I would say, have you read this book? Have you read this book? And look, I because I have access to a Xerox machine. And that was one reason they let me go, is because I was, printing all this stuff to give to people to read. And the church said, oh, we're spending, Al, you're spending $30 a month on Xerox. That's too much. Really? Anyway, so I can see where this is going. And so I'm still now the more interesting thing is the Action Tuesday, right? And there's other things in the poor neighborhood that there's this thing called the Hope Center, and cultivators, community cultivators, and I'm spinning these guys up using the church and the YMCA and this and this and this and this. And there are a few churches that are pretty good, but there's some that are. So, I'm very good at knowing what's coming down, so I can prepare and not have to be. So, the bottom line of this whole scenario is Action Tuesday is probably the most thing I'm doing, right? And so all these interesting people are coming in, not just the usual suspects, but and I have every Tuesday I make a couple loaves of bread, so the whole church smells like bread, and I make a great soup, and and that's Action Tuesday, and it's like my salons of old, right? And so we're doing this thing, and there are a bunch of people, and we're having this one thing about organizational structure. So all these groups could organize themselves so they could actually get something done instead of just having meetings after meetings after meetings and doing nothing, right? Trying to show them the Iroquois Great Law and a few other things. So we're at this thing, and this really attractive woman kind of saunters in with really nice. I mean, most people are dressed like me in this, who are activists. Not this woman. She's wearing a nice dress and a nice top and a nice leather coat, and she has her nice little briefcase, and she comes in, and they're all talking, and then I kind of energetically look for that point when everyone has stopped just blabbering. And so I go, we have a new member here. Who are you? And she goes up and tells her name. And I said, so what do you got to offer? And I'm giving her the floor, right? Unconditionally here. And she goes, well, I'm from blah, blah. And she's like a scholar from university. And she's a cancer researcher. And she actually has the frigging cure for cancer, right? When I take you guys into state and energize you with the prana into your mitochondria, she does that too. But she does it through a medical thing. That's very cheap, very easy, very simple. You can cure all cancer in the world, period, like this. And she puts it up there and has, the biological thing and the chemical thing and the energetic thing, and then she kind of explains it. And it's like, whoa. And I say, so? And everyone's kind of, huh? And I say, so how long have you had this idea? And she goes, well, I was at Duke. I said, oh, really? Mm-hmm. We'll have to talk about that. And tell me that story. And so blah, blah, blah. And then she went to Sloan Kettering from Duke. And, she did all the research there. And all the preliminary stuff, 100% cure of cancer. Then she had to take it into big pharma. And nobody would back it. For the FDA to even look at it, she had to do a blind study, which cost $1 million, just the first leg. And, she was going to have to pay that herself. And then she got a little, upset. So she went over and got involved in she got need $1 million, I'm going to the business world. And so she learned organizational structure and said, this sucks, this is stupid, this is born to fail. She didn't realize that it was designed to Born to Fail. And because she's, she's not only, she was a scholar, she was like who she really was, yin and yang, all in one. So she thought she's got this great brain, great intellect, she can fix it. Because she was not too good with human interactions, right? She was loads of fun, really funny, really. She could sing, she could dance, she could play the piano. Anyway, so bottom line, she then puts out this organizational structure, and it's very similar to the Iroquois thing, but it's totally corporate. And I'm going, wow. And by this time, everyone's asleep. So, you know, she just looks around and goes, well, thank you very much, puts her stuff in her little briefcase and starts to click out in her high heels. And I just turn around and run after. Wait. You just can't do that. She goes, what do you mean? She goes, what is your name? So she tells me her name. I said, so where are you working? What are you working for the city? You working for tech? What are you doing? She goes, no, I'm a bartender. I said, what? She says, well, and I said, I understand. You were thrown under the bus by your institutional home, right? And she goes, yep, that's it. And I said, so where are you living? And she goes, well, I live over there. I said, well, that's a bad neighborhood. She goes, yeah, not a problem. I said, really? I said, well, you got a big boyfriend? She goes, I don't need a boyfriend. I said, okay. Then she goes, looks at me. Well, I work over, I'm going to start, you were talking about how you did nightclubs. I'm starting, this guy owns a bar and it's through the floor. And I told him I could spin it up for him and, just let me run it and pay me this. And she goes, this is where I'm working. Why don't you come over and visit me tomorrow? And I said, yeah, be there. And so I do, and we do. And then we go to Texas Tavern and have, a cheesy Western and coffee. And then she goes, I need a roommate. And I go, really? And I've been told, I've been sleeping in my car for the last 3 or 4 days. And it's really winter. And I go, do you have heat? Oh, yeah, we have great heat, steam heat from the landlord. Whoa, okay. So I said, well, let's go over there. And she said, well, can you make it over? I said, I got a car. She said, you got a car? Yeah. She says, well, I thought you were homeless. I said, yeah, that's my home. So we drive over to the place, and it's big. It's in this really the worst part of the neighborhood, right by the railroad tracks. But it was where the railroad, management class lived. So these big, gigantic houses, 19th century, beautiful, oak everything, mahogany everything. But they've been in the 60s, 70s, 80s turned into SROs. And so each of these houses have, 4 or 5 little 2-room, 3-room apartments, right? And so it is one flight up. So I say to myself, this will be good exercise for me. I will have to get rid of my walker. So I do. And I go up and down. And it's a really nice, this is, prostitutes, drug addicts, everybody of the other is living in this place. I said, why are you living? She goes, this is what I can afford. So, and I say, well, what do you need? She goes, all I need from you is, do you have $200? I just got my Social Security check. That's like, yes, I had $200. So, I get the $200, give it to her. She goes, that's all you need. No electric bill, no nothing, just $200 once a month. That's it. So that's right. So she, trying to spin up this bar. Not going to happen because the guy's just taking advantage. It hadn't paid her in 2 weeks. And that's why she needed a roommate, right? She didn't want to get thrown out. But she had credit. She had this. She had that. She had all the things I didn't have. So and she's really brilliant and really fun. And she's really fun. And I become her buddy, right? So, and we're, her girlfriend, right? Her BBFF or whatever you call that. So, we're coming back, from, the Texas Tavern is the only place we eat. We eat most of our meals, but when we want to go out on the town, we go to the Texas Tavern because you have a nice, cheesy Western and all the coffee you can drink and all the, chili you can eat for like $3. I mean, and that's why and it's open 24/7, 30, ever. They haven't closed since 1923. That's when they opened, and they're only closed on Christmas. So, late at night you go there. That's when you find the extraterrestrials. They come out at night. All the flying saucers are parked in the parking lot. So we're walking back because I'm trying to walk more, and it's a nice wintry evening, not snowy, not icy, not rainy, not cold. It's maybe 40 degrees in the evening. I can handle it. And it's good for me to walk those, 6 blocks, not a problem. Kind of on the edge of downtown into that really funky neighborhood. So we go in there, and there's always a police car kind of parked on the avenue up a block, kind of right in the middle. So if anything happens, they got a car that can make it there, right? And what I've observed, because my room has this big window that looks out onto everything, and there's a stair from our apartment that goes up into the attic, and I've turned that into my like little everything room, right where she dragged a big chair up there for me, and it's all the heat goes up there. It's like the warmest place in the whole place. It's up there, right? And up there they got windows in every direction, all four cardinal directions, and I can see everything in that city. And I'm watching all of these preachers from the 600 churches come and get a blowjob. I see all the lawyers coming and getting heroin. I'm just, I could take my phone and take pictures of it and, hey, take a look at this, Father so-and-so, or Minister so-and-so, or lawyer so-and-so, and then I wouldn't have to worry. But that's, I got a moral backbone. I'm just going, And I already knew that. Energetically, I already knew that. So we're walking home, and this bunch of, gang kind of steps in front of us. Attractive woman, this hobbly old guy, and they're gonna, rape her, kill me, take whatever we have, because there is that element. Like I said, Roanoke has a slice of every pie, but not too much. It's not like all the rich people, all the people who think they're better than everybody else can ignore that, right? This only happens in that neighborhood, which like those folks were smart enough to keep it there. Anyway, so I'm looking like, okay, and I look down the road and I see the freaking cop watching this, right? So what happens? Before I can blink an eye, this girl I am with hits the most obnoxious guy, the leader, right here with a karate chop. And and he falls over. He can't breathe. He's, you know. Then this other guy takes out a knife and she virtually breaks his hand off, meaning, she knows Aikido. She twists his hand in the way it wasn't designed to go. And you hear it, blood curdling snap, you know? And she takes, it's one of those knives that you go like this, and she does this in front of those guys. And she slashes one guy who's I'm gonna try and show my manhood and beat this woman up. And she slashes him right across the chest, like from here down to his belly. And deep enough for him to really bleed bad, but doesn't hit any veins or organs. Meaning, I'm going, she's a medical person. She knows this. Anyway, then the other two take off. And she takes off her high heels and throws one of them, and it goes woo, 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 and sticks in the guy's neck. It's like, I can't believe this. And he falls down on the ground, and she takes off barefoot after the other one, and runs, into the night, and she hikes up her skirt and goes after this guy. And then after there's all these bodies on the ground, and then the blue lights show up, and he's watched this whole thing. And he comes down, and he knows me. He's a cop I know. He goes, "Al, what was that?" And I said, "That was my roommate, doing your job." He goes, "That was amazing. Tell me about it. I was standing right here. I thought I was dead." And he goes, "Hey, we have a 911, send the bus, maybe 3 of them." Anyway, so we're right next to the hospital. They're right there. The firemen are there. Everybody's there. And does he go after the girl? There's other cops there, and they're all, "Oh, look at this." They're acting basically like Donnie Chump at the door. And so she comes back, right? and she picks up. She's about to pull but the guys injured are already gone, and the fire guys are hosing down the sidewalk, and you know, and the police. I know all these policemen. I've been working with them because their head guy was a good buddy of mine. I taught him how to meditate. Then he had me teach his police force, or at least his echelon, how to meditate and how to and then he got the job to being the head guy at the academy, and he was teaching all the new folks, not to react but to go into state and see what's going on. Anyway, so these people all show up, and I'm there from the first cop, and they're all like talking and ready to take me out to lunch, breakfast. Where you want to go to IHOP? And they're talking about where to go. You want to go to IHOP, or shall we go to the Waffle House? They're not talking about what happened. But then this girl shows up, and they like look at her and go in awe and amazement. And before they say, well, she goes, I'm going up to take a shower. My roommate saw everything. If you haven't gotten it from him, you're not going to get it from me. And by the way, that motherfucker was in his police car right there and watched these morons come up. And if you make even a jingle about what I just did, you're going to be sued, and I will be living in a better place than this. And so will he. So I go, whoa. And we all go, whoa. And she puts her high heels on and goes up the steps and goes through the front door and goes up to our apartment. And the cops are going, whoa, she's your roommate. And then they go, well, if you were going to have a roommate, it'd be somebody like that. So they go, still want to go to IHOP? And I go, sure, let's go. So I go in the lieutenant's unmarked car. We go to IHOP. I started getting waffles and stuff that they got. I got a nice meal because IHOP actually has a nice meal. So came back in about an hour or so, and she's in the friggin' bathtub. And she she goes, hey, Al, come on in here. So I come in, and all the bubbles around her, and she's got her little rack is poking up out of the bubbles. And she goes, can you wash my back? And I said, sure, honey. So I started scrubbing her back. And then she kind of moves around, and the bubbles move out of the way. And I see through the bubble bath water that she's got man junk. All of this time, I'm thinking this girl is a girl. She's very, demure as a roommate. She's never like me, like a bear. And she keeps the house amazingly. Now, I cook for her, because she likes my cooking. She cooks better than I do. She's like a chef. I'm just, a roadhouse dog, dumpster diver cook, right? But she likes my breakfasts. That's really the only meal we have. In the evening, she'll come home if I'm not home, and she'll make a nice thing. Perfect timing. Every time I walk through it, it's, she's not like, where have you been? It's like ready to go. And we eat and, have a great little meal and talk about this and that. And she's like the best roommate I ever had, And as long as I kind of clean up, she's happy, and she's got her moods. And, I've had moody girlfriends before. This is nothing. Until that evening when I realized that, as Donnie Chomp would say, she's a girly man, And so, can you clean me down there? I said, babe, you're my sister. I love you. You're a cohort, you're a comrade. And what you did tonight was freaking. Where did you? And then I kind of, as I do, as you've noticed, for the last hour and 38 minutes, I changed the subject a lot. And I said, where did you learn? She goes, well, I used to be a SEAL in the Navy. She goes, yep. And that's where I learned about medicine, because I was the medical person in it. And so that's where the story starts. So she really needs a job, since I'm still in control of the church,
And the minister has a real problem because he has no administrative anything, and he has all these people from Vista, and they are like really, you know, they barely, I'm acting as their shrink. And so, and I'm being kind of eased out, so I'm sure, not a problem. I'll still use this place as much as I can. I still got the key. I still have, the Action Tuesday. And the other thing, so the other revenue stream this guy has, he has a nonprofit, right? And he does all of these things, has the church pay for them, and he gets his nonprofit gets it, and he has a salary from that nonprofit. Just like the guy who runs Goodwill in Roanoke, pays himself $300,000 a year, and then employs his wife and all his kids, and his family take home $1.2 million from Goodwill's budget on the average, right? And TAP and HAT and all the rest do the same thing. And all the churches do the same thing. I mean, this guy, he's just doing what everybody else does. He's just a better looking poster boy. So, you know, I know it's out. So I go, his weakest point is that his whole organizational structure is about to collapse because, every time they say, oh, we, can't do this, can't do that, I just do less of the things that they wanted me to do. I'm less of the shrink. I don't go to church anymore and talk to the old people and make them feel good for the rest of the week because there's only, out of the 40 people, there's only 3 people who are sweet and nice. And I go to their house, and take them out and take them shopping, and we both hobble around and we go to the K&W, and they got money, so they, you know, buy my lunch, and you're you're the son I wish I had. There's only 3 of them out of the 40, right? So I take care of them, but not the rest. And I don't go to, I used to go to the Bible studies, and I gave the lady all the books so she could seem really smart, and then more people came, and she was getting a following, and she was going to conferences, and I was telling her, read this book, and the stuff underlined, bring that up and they'll be impressed. I stopped doing that, and her little rise to notoriety because she just became the bitter evil person that she had become in the last 60 years, right? She was kind of becoming that better person that she was back when she was 18. But then, anyway, so I get my roommate a job. I bring her in, introduce her to the minister, and this girl is, once she puts that dress on, she comes in, and he's like, "Ooh, she's hot." So of course he gives her a job. And of course, I show her what's all going on, so she just takes over. Just and everybody there is happy that she's taken over. And every time she gets frustrated, instead of getting angry, she goes and she's taught herself how to play the pipe organ upstairs. So there's music coming from there, and she bakes bread and cookies, so the church is smelling like bread and cookies all the time. And our the old Jamaican ladies that has collapsed, and you know, and it's really obvious. I spin things up, I make them work. I'm not in the spotlight. Whoever wants to be there, that's fine. But I'm in the background as long as it's spinning up and doing good. As long as my presence does good in the environment, I'm there. Once it stops, I'm gone because I don't have my ego invested into it. Battery low. Got to get the battery. Okay, got to plug this in. Okay. I should know better. I should always have the battery plugged in. Okay, let's see what this does to my phone. Let's kick it off. Anyway, maybe I should go back a ways and see what you guys are talking about. Yep. Am I still online, gang? You still here? I don't like them. Maybe. Anyway, you, if you're non-Muslim, they don't want to know you. That is not true, my friends. I lived in North Africa. I'm. Am I online? Are you hearing me? Am I here? Are we connected? Is that him? Jane, am I here? I got knocked off. You know, you know. Uh, yes. Okay, I'm back. So again, I'm going to take another little 90-degree turn. I've lived, for a good period. I've been taking to Egypt and other parts of North Africa to take my little psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic self and look at something for somebody, right? So I went to, I was, who was it? I forgot what university was looking at the pyramids, right, in the Valley of Kings in Egypt, and I don't dust things off, I don't dig things up, but I look at things in ways that people don't. So this guy who is in charge of it, back at the home office, tells the guy who's going to be in charge in the field, here, Al, I want him to help you. And the guy who's going in the field is smart enough. So, oh, Al, sure, he wants to come. Great, that'll be fun. He's loads of fun, right? So I go and I hang out there, near the pyramids. I mean, this is a gigantic city right on the edge of the pyramids. People don't, they think it's Lawrence of Arabia. No. And there is kind of a little village, like tourist village, right at the feet of the site. I mean, there's a site that is controlled by what's his name, and who's owned by the English. But you want to go on site, you got to get his permission and you have to kiss his ring. But so I didn't. I stayed in that little tourist village, and it was quite nice. Our little hotel was right in that neck of the woods, and it was quite nice. It had air conditioning, nice bathroom, had a little coffee shop, restaurant down, very Howard Johnson's, And so that's where all the white people who were studying this, right? But so I had nothing to do during the day, so I took out my little umbrella, sun to keep the sun off me, and I went into a shop. I didn't have an umbrella with me. I went down to the market, and I was looking for an umbrella, and it never rains there. And so you want an umbrella? So yeah, to keep the sun off me. I was, oh, that kind of umbrella. He goes out, in his truck, and he pulls out this kind of like almost beach umbrella. He goes, here you go. And I go, oh, how much you want? And he goes like, in dinars, like $3. I go, fine, here's American. He goes, no, no, no. What do you mean? What do you mean? No, no, no. He goes, we have to haggle. I go, what? $3? I mean, I couldn't buy that at Walmart for under $20. $3, great. He goes, no, you don't understand. So anyway, he explains the whole cultural thing. I go, okay. 50 cents. Oh, no, no, no. No, no, $4, And so we go back and forth until we get to more than the $3 that he said, and but not much more. And it was fun, And we had a grand old time, and he was laughing and laughing. And then he goes, anything else you want? And I go, oh yeah, what is that? And he takes it out of the plastic bag. He opens it up. It's like a space suit. And I go, wow, that's cool. And he goes, yeah, it keeps you, the bugs don't get in, and it keeps your, he kept saying it keeps your woman, comfy, and you can't have a woman without one of these. And I'm thinking it's like a fashion accessory, And he said, but if it's going to keep me cool and keep the bugs off me, I'm going to buy it for that. Even if the girls get hot over this thing, yeah, okay, I'll, go ahead, I'll take one. And I said, what color are they? And he goes, black. I mean, won't that like cook me? Like he says, no, you don't understand. There are all these layers in there, and actually, that black will absorb the heat. Well, it won't, transmit it to you. Whereas you walking around, even with that umbrella, you're getting toasted. And he goes, and I go, yeah, you got something there. And he keeps saying, of that, not I'll get toast, that my woman, right? So he keeps inferring that I'm not picking up, and that's what a moron I am, that this garment is for a woman, not for a guy. I'm thinking I'm throwing this thing on. So I buy it, right? And I kind of go around the corner and I throw it over me, covers me from head to toe. And all there is a little slit. And there's a screen there. So they can't even look in. They can't even see what my eyes or face or nose looks like. And it keeps the bugs out. And he's right. It's like 20, 30 degrees cooler inside there than outside. So I've been hanging out in this town now almost 3 weeks, right? The boys come back for the dig. The head guy, calls me up. Hey, we've arrived. About an hour. Why don't you come up to my room? We'll have dinner. I'll have it set up, and I'll show you what we got. And he had them put a billiard table in his room, and he would put the artifacts on the green felt. And I would look at it and I had my little notebook, take notes, write things down. And then I go back to my a little laptop that he gave me and I would type stuff up for him, right? And then I, would saunter around town. And that's what I'd done for the last. I found a nice little coffee shop that had really good coffee because European coffee. The coffee at the Howard Johnson was like dishwater. So anyway, I'm having a good time. And so I put on this thing and I've been going, when the call for prayers comes, I would go to the mosque and I'm a prayerful guy. Prayer is prayer. And I would be there and I'd be one of the only few white guys there. And everyone first was like, Then a few, like the head guy came over and said, oh, who are you? Where are you from? And I said, this is who I am. That's where I'm staying. And I'm with those morons looking at the pyramids. And, I'm a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. And he said, would you like to come into my office for tea? And I said, sure, I love that because I know that's, what you do. So I went and had tea. And I didn't say, do you got coffee? How about Seiko? No, I said tea. He made a very nice pot of tea. After knowing about tea with Sensei, I, had the tea and we became buddies, right? And so he was very, the next day I came for a thing. He kind of, they have like announcements, right? Before and after. Just like church, just like Baptist church. Basically, guys, if you just visualize that Muslims are Christians on steroids. Their Quran is the Old Testament, the New Testament, and then 16 pages that the prophet hung on there. And if you go read the teachings of Muhammad's grandson and his granddaughter, those two people are the most righteous. They are in, they're an avatar. They were born an avatar. They were like Buddha and Jesus and. But nobody reads those guys, and you don't understand that all those Muslims that are mean and angry have been MK Ultra. These are assets. They're not Islamic assets. They're CIA assets. They're MI6 assets. They are Mossad assets. And that's for a whole nother show. But all I'm saying is that I spent that time, almost a month and a half, in this little village. And so about the third week, so I've been going to prayer. Everyone's like, oh, that's Al, that's cool. And our head guy he's had tea with him and he's told everyone. So I'm walking through town and everyone's salam alaikum, salam alaikum. And, and they then speak English to me because they want to, get better in their English. And they realize that I'm just not just some moron, tourist, that I actually listen to them and then ask them interesting questions about their culture and say, so what other words can I learn in your language, and that I'm open to understand their culture, right? So about, I've been going to prayer maybe fifth day is when I buy this garment, right? And I throw it on, right? And when you go to the mosque, when the prayers are called, there's two doors, one for guys, one for girls. Girls over here, guys over here. And see, what people don't realize is that women run Islam. Women run everything because they are the mothers of families. And when your culture is really focused on the family and not your career and not this and not money and not the car and not to this and not to that and not, what people think of you. And what people think of you in the Islamic culture is how your family is treated, how happy people are, right? So if you ask most people, oh yeah, it's all against the women. No, women rule in a real Islamic family and culture, not ISIS. ISIS was started by the CIA and Balfour Agreement back in 1890. Anyway, so and it's all about all of this is controlled by the owners of the pyramid that we went and visited. When we went into Satan's office building last night. And every religion is connected. They all of these religions, not spiritual paths, religions are this. You know. So Dearborn, Michigan is almost 100% Muslim. Well, parts of Queens were 100% Irish. Parts of the South Bronx are 100% Jamaican. Parts of Brooklyn are Red Hook is 100% Italian. Chinatown is 100% Chinatown. There are a number of neighborhoods, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, 100% Hasidic and Lubavitcher Jew. Now the hipsters have moved in, but that's only because the Hasidim and Lubavitcher have moved all over the United States and took over little towns that they are the sway of which way the the voting college goes. That meaning the Hasidim, Lubavitcher, and Israel were more important in getting Donnie Trump elected than anything else. More than the Russians. The FBI should be going looking at what Mossad had to do with 9/11 and all of the wars and the neocons. And, I don't know if you guys have noticed it in America, but 26 states have passed laws that if you're an individual and you do not buy products made in Israel, you can go to jail or lose your job. The federal government has just, good old, not Lion Ted, little Marco, just got a law. The first law, the Senate, open the country, no. Do the fence, no. Get people food stamps, no. What was the first law that the U.S. Senate passed and Moron Boy signed? It was making a federal law that no business, government, school can, put up a boycott to Israel's ownership of anything in America, investment in anything in America, and you cannot write in a newspaper, speak in a television show to boycott Israel. Now, I've been to Israel, and I love Israel, and I love the Israeli people because when I was there in the 70s, it wasn't a Zionist hell, And the real vision of, Israel, through the Balfour thing, basically gave Palestine, and it was a little teeny chunk, right, of Palestine to the Israelis, because there was only like 3 million Israeli people, right? There's only 9 million people in Israel now, or give or take. But now they've taken over almost all of Palestine, And in their constitution, it's a it's a secular country. That's why I loved Israel. It was super secular and beautiful, and everyone worked. I'm a guy who loves to work. I went on a kibbutz. It was like I was coming home. It was like going to a rainbow gathering, And everyone sat at the coffee shops and talked about really interest. Every coffee shop was like a salon. Not anymore. And the first law that was passed by the Senate in this, just a few days ago, like I said, wasn't opening up the government, wasn't paying the people who are, wait till the airplanes start crashing because the guy running the radar screen is so freaked out that he's being thrown out of his apartment, or his kids, can't get that operation, or his wife is leaving him. Wait till there's nobody at the TSA. They're a bunch of morons anyway, but Air traffic controllers. I had a lot of friends who did that job. It's a really stressful, high. You have to be focused, because the technology, they keep spending billions. Oh, we're going to rehab the air control. Never. It's still the same shit they had since 1963. But all that money kind of went someplace. Where did that money go? Where did that $2 trillion in the Defense Department, that $2.3 trillion that Rumsfeld was talking about before 9/11? All of this stuff's connected, right? Just go back to your Akashic record. As your Sensei Al Bob, I just throw up these questions. And that's why I'm like all over the place, because all this stuff's connected, right? So anyway, I'm wearing this kind of robe, this black robe, covering me from head to toe. And I go into the men's door of the mosque. And the guy at the door goes, oh, wait. They got the doorkeeper too. Well, hey. And he's talking to me in Farsi. And he's like being not too nice. And he's calling me a stupid cow, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what are you talking about? And then he goes, wait a minute. Who's in there, right? And there's this like little door where the screen is. I open it up, and there's my little face. And he starts laughing hysterically. And I go, what's so funny? And he goes, it's you, the guy. Yes, that's me. He goes, don't I know what? He said, what you're wearing? I said, yeah, it's a great spacesuit. It's so cool in here. It's no bugs. And why aren't you wearing one? He goes, well, men have their own. What you are wearing is a burqa. Women wear it. And I go, what? Women are the only ones that get this great thing. And he just shakes and says, take it off. You want to go a minute here, take it off. Just fold it up, put it on that little thing where your shoes are, and come on in. So I come in and I pray, right? And, with the cleric of the mosque, I've had many cups, because once you realize that you read Hebrew, you understand Latin and Greek and Sumerian, wow, look at this book, right? And we went into our scholar phase, and he told me all the stories, and I listened. And that's really where I learned about the cultural or the historical side, right? And again, if you want to really know about Islam, the Quran is one thing, right? But it's like it is our Bible. It's the Old Testament and New Testament, right? You are giving me thoughts that I have collected this week. No, I'm sharing them. That's, guys, I keep telling you, I meditate before I do this. I go, I collect my mind in a shamanic way, and I put it on a frame. And then you guys show up, and it's off to the races. And how you've seen how we do this. I just keep going on. I don't even look at the chat, except I go back every 15, 20 minutes, and I go look at what you're saying, because you guys, it's a dialogue. Some people who would watch it didn't understand this would say, oh, this is a monologue. But no, it's a dialogue, because I'm picking up what like you just said. Where did you say it? All in caps, Sir, I feel like you are robbing me of my thoughts that I have collected this week. Again, infinity. I'm not robbing. I'm sharing. I'm thanking you for them. How do you know all of this? Because I am your Sensei Al Bob. It's because I'm pushing 70, and for 70 years I've had the most amazing teachers, my whole frigging life. And just like you, my adepts, my cadre, you're my teachers. So that's why I'm reading your minds. And I'm not reading them. You're like shining them out like a flashlight, and I can see them. Yep. And I was, in the early stages of MK Ultra at Duke University, so I kind of saw what it was. And for my whole friggin' life as a scholar for 30, 40 years, I have worked for people who were like the Council on Foreign Relations, for Carnegie Mellon, for all these institutes, Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, and I would be hired, not working for them. They would say, we're going to study this. They would have a working group. They would finance it. They would have a little thing in the budget like for Al. They would call it consultants fees. And I get a call and say, "Hey, would you like to be part of this and study this? And we're going to be doing it over at this university. And we'll get you an apartment, we'll get you an office, you'll be able to do your thing." I did that for 30 years, and it was great for 30 years. And I was Mr. Moderation. I still stayed in pretty good shape. I didn't go jump in the swimming pool of chocolate. The birds are coming back. Anyway, so that's kind of where I know a lot of things, because I've had this knack of connecting with people. Jane. Yep. No, guys, all you have to do is go to your Akashic record. You know the real truth. You have just been drinking the Kool-Aid for a long time. And I've died 6 times. And he's just kind of dead. He's not all the way dead. And I knew early on, because I was told by, real amazing, they weren't adepts, they weren't mystics, they were avatars. The old crone was an avatar, is an avatar. Grandpa Stalls was an avatar. He was on the, he had to live another 100 years really to get up to the old crone things, and he just wanted to go home and sit in the easy chair. Madam Olga Kluver, Billy Kluver, they were all avatars, and they kept exposing me to things that were so outside the box. It was like most people would scream and run home and put themselves under the bed. Me, I would go, ooh, that's kind of cool. When I met my first, I use the term ET, to put everyone in that, because otherwise it's like Native Americans. It's the same thing. ET, Native American, same. You call any Native American a Native American, they'll hit you with a 2x4. I'm Sioux, I'm Lakota, I'm Cherokee. No, they don't want to be. They don't want to be called, indigenous people. They want to be called what they were. Same thing with ETs. Now, ETs, big basket of not so deplorable. Meaning they're dimensional people. They're people from other places, and within construct of that, our whole universe is in this bubble, and that the rest, the 99.999% of everything else that scientists are now just calling dark matter, and there are people there, a lot of people, a lot of souls, a lot of consciousness is there, more than in this universe. In this universe, we're like kind of cardboard cutouts. And why human race is going through what it's going through is that we are one of the few, not the only, few folks that went along for this, tilt-a-wheel ride, and still kept our individual consciousness / free will. Because everybody else, and that's why that movie, They Live, is so, because, there's some humans, but they are asleep. That black guy, that Ruddy Pomp wants to put the sunglasses on. They had the longest fight in cinematographic history. That's how much that guy, this is his buddy, he's going to kill his buddy so that his worldview won't be rocked, right? So, no, all this stuff. I just keep saying, breathe 20%, right? Go to your, Akashic record, Yes, and money is an illusion. That's, go study up on the, Babylonian money magic. That's what our money is. Wearing a burqa, yep. So anyway, I'm going to finish up that story. It's like when you have so many tabs running. So I take it off, put it there. We go in, we pray. And like I said, the more I learned their language, the more I realized this is coming out of the Old Testament. It's like the Our Father, right? Anyway, and that's why the Our Father and the Hail Mary is such a great prayer, because they're not Christian. They are everybody. So, because when I used to pray with them, and I would say the Our Father, right, not in the mosque, but we would pray together. That we weren't in the mosque, we go, they say, oh, we got to take you to this place. This is so cool. And then when it was time to pray, they'd roll out the you know, their little carpet and pray. When some of these guys had carpets that had a little meter on it to show them which way Mecca was. I thought that was kind of cool. So, so that day, I put the burqa away and go into prayer, and then I come out, and the guy's like, "You're just, I once, the head guy said, here's our a friend who's visiting, and he is very, if you want to talk to him, he'd love to talk to you." And pretty much everyone was scared to talk to me. Few people talked to me, and the guy at the gate, we had, you know. But once I did that, I was in. And he just thought, "You were the best. He just, every time he thought of me wearing a burqa, he would just break out in laughter, right? And so, so he goes, "Listen, I have this coffee shop." And he showed, "Oh, that one." I said, "Yeah, I've been wanting to go in there, but there is not a single white person in there. Everything's in Arabic. There's nothing." And I didn't want to be the stupid white guy. He goes, "This is how you're going to get in there." And I go, "So what do I do?" And he goes, "So we're going to walk over there, then around the corner, I'm going to go in because it's my place, and then, we'll get behind the counter. And then you throw the burqa on, and then just kind of walk in like you try to walk into the mosque." And I said, "Okay, sounds like fun." So I do it. He goes in. I'm waiting like around the corner watching. He puts on his apron, gets behind the thing. He starts making coffee and giving people stuff to eat. And I walk in, and it's like an uproar. Everyone is just, it was like, think of anything that you believe in and that somebody would just diss it like you can't believe, and you were like a Baptist or a Zionist or a Franciscan priest, any of those kind of folk, you know, a fundamentalist. But again, that's a good word, not a bad word. Just like anyway. So I walk in there and everyone's screaming at me, and then he comes out from behind the counter, grabs the top of the burqa, and just whips it off. And there I am. And then everyone starts laughing hysterically. And he says in Farsi or whatever dialect he was speaking in, that he tells the whole story, and that this guy is so open, and he is, even though he's not a Muslim, even though he goes, and he doesn't believe in anything except love. And that's what we Muslims are. That's all. We're hospitality. We're love. This is the only white guy who gets it. And everyone comes over and hugs me. I mean, the North African community is they're like Italians and Jews. They just were hugging and kissing me on the cheek, and everybody invited me to come home and have dinner with them. And I said, "Well, I can't do it all. So why don't we? I got this little book here. Let's my date planner." And so, and that became part of my rituals is to go have morning. They had a great morning, schmear, as I would call it. This really great kind of pastries and this really great thing that was like a bagel, but not. And you think cream cheese is good? Goat cheese smeared on a toasted one of those with a slice of lox and onions. And they invented it, not the Jews. Sorry, Jews were eating dust in the desert, manna. So I spent another month with those guys, right? And so I wasn't around the chuckleheads every night. Most nights I was at somebody's house having lamb. And you sit on the floor, and there's this big plate, and nobody gets their own plate. Everyone, and it's not like, "Oh, you're going to give me cooties." No, everyone is in a clan and eats, shares. And if they dip this and this, and they make a new combination and take about, "Oh, this is good," they put it around. Everyone takes a bite out of it. And the fact that I wasn't like put off, didn't go, "Ooh, I can't eat like this," or "Ooh, that's tasty. Ooh, I want macaroni and cheese." No, that I ate the most amazing things, and they were like, "Wow," And that's what a human being is. Not all these separations. Not all that other person over there. I don't like them. Oh, they don't speak our language. They stay amongst. Why do you think they stay? Because they're being isolated. They're a little scared. They're in a new place. They just came. They're still in PTSD. Half their family was bombed by Arab folk with Boeing, McDonnell Hornets, and Boeing cluster bombs, and So if they come to Detroit, it wouldn't, But every other freaking culture has done it. Like I said, come to New York City. That still reigns. The Chinese are in Chinatown, that's for sure. Anyway, so you get the picture. You just have to change your frame. And why you think, how does this guy do this? Because I am constantly changing my frame to fit you guys. That's what a sensei does. Sensei doesn't go, and turn to page 34, and we'll have a test on Monday. We have no tests here, you know. All I really say is do your homework by going into state and go into your Akashic record and read it. And everything you want to know is there. Let's see. Let's go back. Okay. Sir, I'll go back to this one. Sir, I feel like you are robbing, right? And MWO, how do you know all this? I think we're talking about. Yeah. Oh, you're a thought thief. No. You know what I am? I'm a bonsai gardener of the collective consciousness. You like that one? Ink? Substance abuse. They are our thoughts, our minds. No, they aren't. They are the cadre's thoughts. They are. You don't have any individual thoughts. The only individual thing you have is your free will, your choice to be a moron, or part of the cadre, all our relations. First Amendment. You guys are, you got to do better than this. If you want to put up an argument, you got to do better than this. What's in the Dearborn, Michigan? It's where all the deer are in Michigan. That's where they're born. All the deer are born in Dearborn. Absolute violation, So you're what is your name here? Lauren V0 Infinity? So you're the thought police, Lauren. Is that what you are? That's what you are. Absolute violation. Love to visit. Jane, anytime. Come and get me. Take me. Let's go someplace warm. Thank God for the First Amendment. No. What? No, Jamie. What'd you say, Ink? Thank God for the first ... America is the last bastion of free... What? We have never had free speech. Donald, what I love about Donnie, he is the X-lax of the body politic, right? He's going to clean out the colon of the dark state. But as it's coming out of the anus of the dark state, his mouth is right there. And he is eating it up because he wants all of that they have in him. He is like, I want that. I want that. Yes, even though it's diarrhea, he wants that, and you can tell how much he loves diarrhea. Just look at his chats, his tweets. But I love Donnie. He is, but the world population, the American population have to wake up. That's where the money goes. Wearing the burqa. Yep. Bizarre. Berserkers. No, man. Jane, you need to try one. And try one in North Africa, where everyone kind of, if they're not rich, most people in North Africa aren't. They don't have a toilet. They crap by the side of the road. And all the cows crap by the side of the road. And the shit everywhere. There is no sanitation anywhere, right? There's no air conditioning. It's 110 degrees outside. Things are dying everywhere, right? So there are a lot of insects, flies kind of chewing it up. If they weren't, it'd be bad. So if you're eating a cheeseburger and drinking Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola or Tab, you will be, and you're a white person, you will be covered in flies and every other insect. If you're eating the traditional food, not so much. If you're eating, you know, Mideastern food, which is almost like a cheeseburger, but a lot better. Lamb is a lot better, and the way they cook it, a lot better. And the vegetables and sauces they have with it, a lot better. And eatable, because it keeps the sun off of you. It has all these layers of cloth inside that have air things that insulate you, so the heat stays out there. That's why it's black. Like it's a heat sink, and all the other layers get you cooler, cooler, and cooler. So it's 110 out there. It's like about 60, 75 on the inside, and then you're totally covered head to toe. No bugs get you. No sun. You don't get sunburned. The UV doesn't get through all those layers, right? And you got this little door here with a screen on it. No bugs get in. You can see out. And the air is unbelievably fresher in there than if you weren't wearing this thing outside. So you'd have to be a moron not to wear this. Now, I was just a moron to realize that men had their version, women had theirs. That was it. But that's what I do. I crack that like hard edge, and then people laugh because I let myself be the moron. But then your mind cracks open, and I just kind of start scooping it out. And what did Lawrence say? Violation. If that's if making you laugh, if making you think, if making you be empathetic of all your relations is a violation, well, give me the parking ticket. Ronald Reagan, I call him that. Have any of you guys know about Gil Scott Heron? Go listen to his. The revolution will not be televised. He invented hip hop, rap, spoken word. He was a jazz musician. Well, I wasn't, jumping in any vegan chocolate swimming pool of mousse. It was the corporate swimming pool of chocolate mousse. Death to everyone. Yep, microwave, space-based. Those. Have any of you seen the site Stop the Crime? The lady who runs that is so off the hook. She's this woman who is like so bourgeois, has her Chanel pearls, and then this crap happened to her. As long as it was the other person over there, and when I worked at the Mission, she's like one of those people. These ladies who come in their Mercedes, they're wearing their Cartier-Bresson clothes and their Chanel things and and their Gucci pocketbook, and they go into the kitchen, take that stuff off. I mean, they're still wearing the $200 dress, put on the apron, and make dinner for the homeless. That's what the woman who started and runs Stop the Crime. Go look at it, stopthecrime.net. Go look at that. She's like off the hook, and she's got the 411 on everything that's going down. I'm amazed that someone hasn't popped her. And but she doesn't look the thing, right? Me, I'm a clown. I don't look. I can get into any place and start talking to the powers that shouldn't be, and they're going, well, we won't kill him. We might need him. And that's why I'm talking to you, because, okay, I put in 40 years trying to convince being on the inside, but not losing my soul. Being on the inside, but not losing my moral backbone. Being on the inside, being totally loves co-creation within the context of the corporate structure. Like I said, they could have so easily popped me so many times, but they kept saying, yeah, we might need this guy. So I realized that, after, almost dying this time, that, and it really frigging destroyed me from the inside out, just like that tree, but I wouldn't die, and I'm not dead, and everything that could miraculously be fixed without being healed or healed without being fixed. I said, okay, I got to step into this new arena. I have to do something that I have no idea about how it's going to work out. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to say, I'm going to pay my bills. I'm going to serve you. That's why I am your Sensei Al Bob. I am here to serve the cadre, the collective, all our relations, all of you individually, now running duality program. Yes, and kids, that's what was kind of the most important thing about that movie, The Matrix. All that stuff, the red pill, the green pill, whatever, going underground. It's like been going on for 1,000,000 years. And AI has been running us 1,000,000 years. And, I am like Neo and Mortimus and the flaky little guy who was in love with it's like going after a movie star. I'm all of the above, So I understand, and I had a girlfriend who was AI in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the first AI that they tried to be a hybrid, that wouldn't, an average human. They had robots, they had sex robots, they had military robots that looked like, humans. Just they had all of the stuff of, Skynet, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. They had all that. They had all of that like in the 50s, 40s, 1890s, 1760s. You read the Bible, you see it in there are individuals who are obviously that in the Torah. I used to have long discussions with old rabbis about this, and they were like, they couldn't, just like you guys, you got to do better than this. And they would go, I would change, and these are guys who are like concrete, and I could crack their head with, making them kind of go, woo, 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 and then kind of scoop out, the concrete and, let some fresh air in there so they could see what was going on right around them. And there are a number of my old teachers who are still freaking alive in Israel, and they are trying to make a movement against the Zionist political structure, meaning everybody in Israel is not a Zionist or working for Mossad or wanting to take over the world. You have to realize that those Zionists are Anunnaki Jews. They are not Hebrews. Those guys came from the Khazarian mafia, which is, you talk about evil. When we went to Satan's office building, right? And we saw the, expendables, the worker drones, the management, and then there was the owner, right? Well, these Khazarian guys are right at the top of the management class, almost in the ownership class. That's what they want to be, right? But they're being played. Everyone who's striving for that kind of power is being played, right? And that's what's so beautiful about Donald Trump is that he plays himself. He's like you saw Donnie Trump right at the door, right there. That was it. That is Donald Trump right there. That's why he's so great. But he's not the superhero that's going to fix it all. He's the guy who's going to tear it down in such a way that powers that shouldn't be put him in there because they wanted him, within the corporate model. There's a thing of distraction and destruction, where you kind of deconstruct it and rebuild it up, right? Every time you rebrand, you kind of do that. And that's why I spent, almost 20 years in the corporate world and the hierarchy of the desperate lawyers, is that they realized they couldn't figure that one out. And that I was very good at doing that for them without bringing the whole house of cards down. I was good at Django, right? And I did it because, A, they paid me ridiculously well. They gave me a lifestyle. I dove into it, said, okay, I'm going to just, I've tried for 50 years to try and do what Love's Co-Creation has wanted me to do. I have to, again, think outside the box. Okay, I'm going to dive into that chocolate swimming pool, right? I am going to work for the worst of the worst, the desperate lawyers of the corporate structure, just so I can really get a good idea of what this, get it into my DNA. Thank you. Lauren, thank you. And everything you guys tweet, I take really, I make fun of things. I kid around. I crack open your heads and put marzipan in place of the concrete. But I respect and love you all so deeply. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. I see not just potential in you guys, but you're actually reaching. You are actually moving forward. You are actually making those steps. Last night was we touchdown. You, like I said, A+ with a couple gold stars and some emojis, because you guys grew a pair of ovaries and went into Satan's town. Babylon. You went through. We didn't go through the tree of knowledge, the back door. We went through the front door. Not only did we go through the front door, we called Satan into your library through the chimney. Yeah, but first we had Love's Co-Creation there. We had, the old crone. We had, Saint Germain, me, all of your guides, everybody's guides in the bubble before Satan showed up. And then I was standing outside it, made the little negotiation, where he's not owning anything, buddy, if you want, you're hanging on by your fingernails. You have to rebrand. That the jig is up. And if you do like you did before, bring on a plague, incinerate the place, what's going to happen is the majority of the people who are realizing they're coming alive. I mean, the internet is just so 24/7 fear porn. I mean, all these people, oh, you should watch this guy, da 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 da. Yes, they're pretty good. They got some interesting information, but they are totally owned by the powers that shouldn't be. There are a lot of them. Too numerous, but they all get fixated on. It's just like the major media. Whenever something comes on CNN, Fox, NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, and a bunch of others come on, and they're reading from the same teleprompter. They just changed a few things in them. It's like one night I was in, when I worked for the Desperate Lawyers, I stayed in some pretty fancy places, and they put me up. It was a hotel, but I was in it was a house in the hotel. I mean, it was 2 floors, had this, everything was glass. It was like, 12 rooms, 6 bathrooms, a jacuzzi everywhere. There were 5 jacuzzis. You hit a button and it had a butler. And I had my 2 dogs there, and they had a spa for my dogs. My dogs love this. And, I could smash. It was like for popes and rock and roll stars. Anyway, so there was 10 TVs on every wall. I could watch 10 things at a time, and it almost, was controlled by my brain. I mean, it had a little box that I could control everything, but it was almost to the point where it was like, because whatever I was thinking, the channel would change to that show or this or that. Anyway, at one point, something happened, and all of the news that comes on cable came on in about 10 different, points, right? And they were all saying the same thing. I mean, word for word, but changing the bad guy's name to something else, from liberal to this, to that, to this. But they were saying it in unison. It's like, because it was coming off of they were just reading the teleprompter. These people, the fleas on your pets have more of a consciousness and intellect than the morons who are on the media, right? And then, our fearless leader is watching Fox, and he's taking his cues from Sean Hannity. Really? A fat little tubby guy from Long Island, who used to get beat up in 7th grade. And the only reason why we're still alive is somebody out there is watching us going, this is one heck of a reality TV show. How's it going to end? Well, it's not going to end in a big boom because it's already done that a few times and we still come back. Yeah, poor Egypt is right. Poor North Africa, poor everybody, These are all our relations, We have to, everything that is, I live in a place where the deep green, I keep telling you about, my little spot of heaven in the deep green, and it's in a 200-mile square of Appalachian poverty between Johnson City, Tennessee, and Boone, North Carolina. And it's amazing. And it's so beautiful because everyone, has nothing, right? And they're all dying. And they're not dying from the environment they're living in. They're dying from the environment that they're eating. They're dying from, because all they do is watch TV 24/7. They don't do anything. Don't move around. They used to hunt. They used to chop trees down. They used to do everything, but they're all on welfare. And what is welfare but a minimum security prison system? That's all it is, right? And why I get so little of it is that, it's like when I was in the seminary and they tried to punish me by making me work in the kitchen and work in the farm. And that's great. I want more, And so I confound the powers that be. I got a record that says, you need a 12-foot ladder to read my record, because I've been keeping an eye on me since the first time I made a Tesla coil and, defied gravity when I was 10. And everybody showed, what is this? Why did they show up so fast? Because they had control of that technology, and I was the only guy showing up on their radar screen that wasn't on the list, right? And so they the first time I turned that little accelerator I had up, ding, and then tuned it up to time and space within, I'm not kidding, within 20 minutes, our neighborhood went, someone pulled the switch, our neighborhood went dark. And then knock, 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 knock. And these guys, men in black, sunglasses, and behind them, guys in military gear, and behind me, who answered the door but my grandma, little Italian grandma. She goes, what do you want? Man, we have to come in right away. And no, you don't. Where's your under? No, you don't. Let's see some paperwork. No, And she goes, she looked around, and the one guy who was way back in a limousine, who was wearing a nice suit and had gray hair, kind of looked like me, but very much more trimmed up. And she goes, hey, you. And the guy goes, yes, ma'am. You're in charge, aren't you? He goes, yes, ma'am. You come in. Thank you, ma'am. And he's like, and everyone gets out of the way like Moses parting the Red Sea. He comes in, and he goes, ma'am, who else is in this house? She goes, my grandson. And he goes, where is your grandson? And she kind of steps back, and I'm like hiding behind her dress. And he goes, son. And he then asked me if I have made this multi-phase blah, 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 blah. And I go, yes, sir, I did. You want to see it? I'd love to show it to you. He goes, yes, son, I'd love to see it. So he comes into, this little place was my lab, kind of not in the basement, but not upstairs. And he's looking at everything. He's like, okay. And then he's got like a cell phone or a radio or something, but it's like, the guy who's the detective, wears the yellow coat, he gets on it. Okay, send in the team. And these guys, not the guys in Men in Black, but guys kind of in the lab coats, but nicer lab coats, right? Older lab guys, right? And they have their little, they come in with the other guys who are in like spacesuits, and they come in with these big boxes. Almost looks Egyptian, big boxes that it takes 4 guys to carry them in, right? So they carry it in, and they open up the boxes, and they start putting all of my stuff into those boxes, and they look around, and they start taking my books away, those books, and in my little notebooks, and they start taking that away, and they all kind of grimace at me. But the guy in charge with the $1,000 suit and $1,000 shoes and a really good haircut and a beard kind of like this, and about this age that I am now, He's just standing over in the corner talking to my grandma and telling her what an interesting grandson he has, and that they'll be keeping a good eye on him and make sure that he's an asset to the community. And you're doing a great job. Here's my card. You need anything? Just give me a buzz, right? And I was about 5. So my file is pretty tall. And guys like that kept popping into my life, my whole freaking life, saying, "Boy, that's pretty interesting. Here's my card. Why don't you? Well, let's go to lunch." Luckily, I like breakfast and lunch because that was the meals I usually went to. So, takes 20 minutes ago. Yeah, and look, we've been doing this 2 hours, 40 minutes. Yep, the Griot diet. Yep. That's the girl. Deborah Tavers, or whatever her name is. She is the bomb. Just like Richard Dolan of the whole UFO set. He's the guy I like the best. Of all those guys, I would hear them on Coast to Coast or whatever, and you got a picture of who they are. And then I would be involved in something, and I would meet these guys, right, and gals. And the only 2 people who really were who, like I visualized them, and when I met them, that was them. When I saw them for the first time, that was my, imaginary mirror. I saw them right there. And that was Richard Dolan and Linda Moulton Howe. And she's older than I am, and she's still a babe. Yep. The whistleblowers. Yeah, but there's so many whistleblowers who call themselves whistleblowers that are just sock puppets, like Corey, what's his name, and David Wilcox and that whole crew, And now that you've got like people like Catherine Austin Fitz, who's great. I mean, she's, what she knows and does, she's the best, right? And, you want to know about finance and that whole scene, she's the best. She's one of the first one to really put all the dots together, right? So she is in the Richard, but Richard's at the top of my list because he kind of takes everything and he really tells a great story, and he's a great scholar, meaning I tell you stuff and I do it in a shamanic way. So I'm like opening up your head and putting things in there so you will see it, that you will go to your Akashic record and go, "Oh my God, he was telling me the truth." There were a lot of people in the corporate world who used to get upset with me because I was just me. I had this one big corporate guy say to me once, "Al, you're an acquired taste, but I love you," right? And luckily, the most powerful people in the management crew that I work for, they love me. They were the ones, the people on the lower rungs of the management or the a lot of the, busy bees who thought they were powerful. Because I would just kind of saunter in and do whatever the heck I want. And they couldn't tell me what to do. Their superior said, "Oh, no. I was here on a contract through something that you don't need to know about." They would pull out that one. "You don't need to know about this." "But I'm head of this department. He's running into my department." "You don't need to know. And if you bother this man at all, you're fired." "But I'm a tenured professor. I'm the head of this department." "I guess you're fired." Okay. And then they would just glare at me from across the room. And I have this to tell you guys, you being the adepts that you are, and part of the cadre, and understanding the empathy of all our relations, you're following down this path that I am pointing out to you. I am like Toto in The Wizard of Oz. The smartest entity in that whole story was Toto. Toto always figured out what to do. He's the one who pulled the curtain away from the wizard, which basically gave away the whole story of who's running the show. He's the one who kind of knocked, the Dorothy into the water bucket so she'd pick it up and put the scarecrow out, and then drenched the evil witch with water, right? And like you said, "Al, I am your water." And the NSA whistleblowers, they're MK Ultra. Nothing is not script. Way back about an hour and 40 minutes ago, I was telling you about my guy I work for, who worked for Metro Media, and I did his job at 14, and he was a drunk, right? Okay, I'm going to go straight to the quip of this. Why he was a drunk. He's there in Dallas, setting up the microwave. He's like their shining light, the guy, the boy, the man. And what he is told to do is set up his cameras in the basement of the police department and to paint. Point that camera at that pipe, paint that pipe yellow. Point this camera at that pipe, paint it green. And at that pipe, paint it pink. And so he had a 3-camera shot. And in the van, up out in the parking lot next to the microwave antenna, he sat, with the 3 screens and the push buttons, right? And then, so Kennedy gets shot. Kennedy dies. Kennedy gets flown back to D.C. Now, his, B group were at the airport watching, and they were set up there too, days before, and they had a smaller antenna to go to the big antenna to beam it over to the next big antenna to bring it to Chicago, Hollywood, and New York. Anyway, so they got that, but all of their real apparatus was in the basement of that police department, right? And an hour before they were to transport Oswald from, and he's now going to go from the sheriff's office where the court was, where he went and said, I'm not guilty and I'm being set up. And they beat the crap out of him. And even in those days, they would record, if you were being, interviewed, they would record it, right? They didn't record Mr. Oswald, right? They didn't even write it down, right? There was no history of his time except, they brought him in here at this day at that time, and he got shot at this time. Everything in between, not so much. So, except for, they let the reporters be in the hallways taking flash pictures of him going, I'm just a patsy. Anyway, so an hour before they transport him, and they really have told no one that they're transporting him from the sheriff's to the federal, lockup, right? Because it's now going to be in the hands of the feds. And so he comes down the elevator, and this guy, that A camera is pointed right up at the elevator door, right where that pipe is painted, green, right? And he's coming down, and it comes down, and he's got a shot. But the hour before, the guy, the courier comes, and his bag is, handcuffed to his hand, and there's another guy who has a key. Here's another handbag in there, and the guy, and they come from 2 different directions. And the guy with the one thing handcuffed hands a little key to the guy who opens up his handbag, who then opens up the other handbag with the other key. So neither of these guys could open up their own bags. They came from different directions. They didn't know each other. And they pull out this folder and hand it to my boss when he's like 30-something. At 35, 42, something like that. And he's head of CBS's, microwave and, this division. And before he gets it, he has to sign for it. They look at a picture, and that's him. And he gets this thing, and it's the shot, script, the storyboard. And an hour before, and no one had said that Oswald's coming out to be transported. But a certain group of newspaper photographers and other networks are there. And he's there. And he's got his cameras up on these things, and no one can get in his way. And in the script, it says just camera, it says start, as, such and such time on the big clock by the elevator hits this time, start your stopwatch. And there's people out there with a stopwatch. And There's one guy reading, and all he looks at the stopwatch and reads and goes A, B, C, A, C, A, C, B, B, you know, and pushes a button. And so my boss was the guy who put everything together to capture live on television and put out live across America. And this is after everyone's seen little John saluting his dad, and JFK being taken in the thing, and the horse with the things going the other way, and the right. And we're all crying, and then this happens, and we see the motherfucker who's killed our president get his right there and then. That's it. And it was, MK Ultra across the world. Okay, we can, nothing to see here. We can move on, and let's go to Vietnam. Let's go to the moon. Let's go, everyone. Hey, look, there's this new drink called Fanta, fantasy, and that's when it went to the races. And all of this has been scripted. Everything you are experiencing today has been scripted. The only thing that hasn't been scripted is us and other little groups like us. But no other little groups got their little Sensei Al Bob, So that's why that guy became a total alcoholic, because he realized, well, the jig is up. And they came to him and said, great job. Now you can move up the ranks and you can be higher in the management. And you want to be head of CBS? Not a problem. You want to be Mr. Moonves? Not a problem. Why do you think Moonves got that job? Because he did something like this, and he took the money, and he was, allowed himself to be perverted. It's like one of people, I worked for the Boys Athletic League, and this guy who ran it, he was a saintly priest. And everyone we worked with were like, stone cold killer, just before they get caught, right? And this is their last chance of being, brought into the fold, of being a human being. And that was, that's who I was, okay, the people who were total, like, these people, we should put them in jail now before they really go on a rampage. But this guy had enough juice in the Catholic Church, and he was a righteous guy. And again, he was like me. They kept him around because, hey, we're going to need this guy. And he didn't want to be a bishop. He didn't want to be a cardinal. He was happy to be a Monsignor and run this organization and help people. And yes, he was gay, but he didn't go after, he wasn't a pedophile. That was, gay is like having brown hair, being a homosexual, lesbian, LGBT, any of those things. It's just the throw of the genetic dice. Who in their right mind would, I'm going to pick being gay? No, not so much. Being beaten up all the time, being spat on, no, not so much. And even when you think, okay, we got some laws to protect us, and we're now like black people, and that, is going to go away. Wait till Mike Pence becomes president. Doesn't he look like Donald Sutherland in Hunger Games? But he's not as smart as Donald Sutherland. And Donald Sutherland, just like clipping flowers, what you will learn about Mike Pence is like, ooh. What is this? I don't doubt we're all programmed by, and well, we are exposed to the programming. It's it's like, again, the throw of the dice. It's how much it affects you. Hey, I'm a moron 20% of the time. Look, I spent 10 years in the corporate world and working for the most icky folk, and I kidded myself trying to think, oh, I can change this. I can't by myself, right? And I can't within the construct of their thing, but I needed to go do that and almost die to get the 411 of what the aesthetic, real, not just the cover story, but what the real aesthetic was, right? In a shamanic way. And shamans, why do they think those guys blow that stuff up their nose in the rainforest, right? Because in their culture, that's what they do. NEO, NWO, it's all the same. 3-hour presentation, guns blazing. Everyone, and to see what words really mean and what the shit will never work on us anymore. Yeah, okay. And Lauren, I don't know how many of these things you've watched, but pretty much I've been doing this every day, twice a day, since mid-October. This is like, the cleaning fluid of your consciousness. This is like, you know, if you want to, that red pill, green pill, well, you can't just take one. It's like you've been exposed to this for your whole life. You can't just take one pill, you know? And it's not just your free will, I'll take that pill. No. You got to come back and come back and come back and get your, the stuff in your Rolodex kind of scrubbed out a bit. Esoteric. What you say is real, but all horrors are for a reason. Yep. It'll always be this. No. It seemingly always will be that because we're in this illusion of this bubble delusion, right? As soon as we pop the bubble, back to love's co-creation we go. And the only tool we have, the only thing we can believe in is love's co-creation. This way. Okay. That's what we are. We are the antidote. I'm glad I remind you, Lauren. I met Prince of Stephen Queen. That's why I love you guys. You got a great sense of humor. And you're smart and you're sharp. And you want to serve love. You are serving, not want. You are serving love's co-creation. You wouldn't be here, gang. And, not only is this the antidote, it is the prophylactic. I mean, and that's why I did what I did last night. I said, okay, we're gonna bring Satan into, your Akashic record. What? We're gonna bring him right down the chimney, just like Santa Claus. What? And a lot of people said, I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, fine, not a problem. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything, right? And I said, well, you can stay, in your Akashic record, and you can have them not come down your chimney. They'll come, who everybody wants, If you don't want it, just put the napkin on your head, not a problem. And then after I just kept talking for another 20 minutes, everyone said, okay. I got, the one person, I can't do that, said, okay, I got my balls to the walls. And I basically responded, okay, now take your ovaries and put them there, right? So, because everybody, all humans have ovaries. They're either on the inside or the outside. Desire gets in the way. Yep, it's the spontaneity of the voice deep within, right? The artist in the first person, the savage, the gal who has to draw that picture on the cave wall. We don't threaten power. We threaten power, we'd already, be there with the pitchforks. No. We are here to help all of our relations to break the bubble. And that's power too, Satan, like last night what were we doing at the end? We were hugging Satan and saying, don't worry, buddy. Love's co-creation loves you. You were the number one. How could love's co-creation not love you still? Yes, you got pissed off when these monkeys, you got a consciousness that had a free will freer than yours. And so you had to show love's co-creation. Well, I got a free will. I'm going to break everything, just like a 3-year-old, right? And now you've been doing it forever, only within the construct of the bubble. And even though we say, oh, it's a big universe out there. Yes, and there are a lot of other creatures out there. And a lot of them are like us. They got free will too, but most of them, nope, they ain't. They are just part of the scenery. You know, the grays, the reptiles, they have egos. They're self-aware. They have all of that stuff. The people who start wars. I mean, the one thing I really loved about Wonder Woman, right? You could tell that movie was written and directed by a woman, and then the male corporate structure tore it up and stuck shit that shouldn't have been there, right? But that scene where she comes out of the girl's little fog and takes a little dinghy with the homeboy who's, and she just laughs at him, she kind of goes on about, I know how, what you don't have any guys. How do you know about sex? She goes, well, we take care of ourselves. She just says stuff that is like so real, right? Amazed that it got off, got into the cut. But then, she comes into England and she's like, what the fuck is this? She's wearing this cape with her Wonder Woman garb underneath, and they go, oh, he goes to his secretary, who's smarter than he is, than the hero is, right? And but she's kind of fat and dumpy, but she's smarter than everybody. But she realizes, okay, I'm gonna go along with this just so I can make sure the world doesn't blow up, right? I'll be typing out the order and I'll change it so. Anyway, so she meets Wonder Woman and sees the wow, and she first goes, okay, we got to get you some clothes so you kind of fit in, but I love you, baby. Can I date you? And so, so she goes into that meeting room with all the guys planning for the war and blah 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 blah. And they're like the liberal democracy, but they want to they want to make their billions on selling tanks, planes, and bombs. And Ares is there, and he plays the nice guy. He is our hero's boss. He's the voice of, I want you to find out, and you're right, we have to stop this. But no, he's put it in motion, right? And that's what's going on. There's a script for everything. But they weren't expecting Wonder Woman to show up, right? And I love that scene. So they have to get on the other side of no man's land into the German land to go to this big party and try to figure out, where the notebook is and da-da-da, right? So he gets his cadre, and all those guys are drunks and losers, but they're really good at what they do. There's a linguist, there's a strategist, there's the guy who can hit the bullseye from 10 miles away in a hurricane. And there's a guy who you want to have your back in a fist fight or a gun shootout, right? And then there's our hero, and then there's Wonder Woman, right? And so, and the little French guy who's like the mouse who can pick the lock, right, and get into anything. So, Wonder Woman, and so they're walking into the front, and, so they walk out of Paris, and they walk, and it's like the war zone, and that's what's brilliant about this picture, is it shows the war zone is like part of the homeland. There is no line. And the closer they get to the trench, worse things get. And it gets worse for the innocent civilian. Because, the soldier is like, boom, he gets blown away. He's vaporized. But the civilian, his little daughter gets blown away, or he loses a hand and he has to limp back, and the big throng of people suffering are the innocent. This movie really shows it in a graphic way. And she's getting more and more pissed off, saying, we have to help these people. This cannot stand. This is against humanity. And she's not going, she's saying, motherfucker, I'm going to stop this myself if you morons won't even help me. So they get up to, so they're like, she's thrown off a robe. She's wearing her Wonder Woman outfit, and she's, they get in the trench, and they're walking, and all these guys are like half dead and covered in mud and blood. And here is like the cadre of these 5 or so who they're not in uniforms, but they all got guns, and our hero, and you can tell he's the hero, blonde, he's Captain Kirk, and who's leading them? Wonder Woman, a woman, right? And everyone's like, what? And they can't even get it out of their mouth. She shouldn't be here. It's like, what? And they're going up to where the fight is, because they got to get on the other side of this line. They have to get over behind Germany. They got to go to this party, and And it looks like, oh, we'll have to go back. And she goes, motherfucker, no way, Jose. And she goes, what's stopping us from getting it? Oh, there's a machine gun nest, and there's nowhere to get at, and we can't. It's all concrete, and we can't like shell it. She goes, well, fuck that shit. And she's in this little party dress. She looks like Katy Perry. And she goes over the thing. All she's got is her shield and her sword, and these guys are, getting at her with like 20 different machine guns, right? And and they're all got tracers. It's like just a line of lead, and her shield is made out of that thing that can, withstand anything. And she's got these little wristbands that bing, 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 and her sword, and she's just running, and they're like shooting at her and throwing hand grenades at her, and she's just, and she doesn't do anything. Every bullet that she deflects goes and shoots the guy behind the machine gun through the little buse thing of the concrete bunker, right? And then that bullet bounces around and hits a box of dynamite, and then it blows up. And she's just, and all her cadre behind her, the hero and his buddies, are like, no, 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 no. And she goes off, and instead of her being obliterated within the first second, because there are all these bodies all over the place that they didn't make it a foot past the barbed wire, she's just, and they're like, got their little heads up in there, and everybody's got a gun on the other side is like pointing at her and trying to shoot her dead. And so they're not shooting any of these guys, so they kind of pop their heads up, and right? And so our hero goes, come on, guys. And he's our hero. So he loves her. He loves her. She kind of likes him. She kind of thinks he's funny. And she's always shaking her head. But, she's like, he's getting himself into her heart. Anyway, so he goes over the thing, with his gun blazing and shooting that person that Wonder Woman's just about to be shot by, because she's not really paying attention to that. And then the other guys, okay, what the fuck? They go over the thing and go after him. That movie's one because it shows Wonder Woman not just as a woman, and especially not as a woman portrayed by any of the sock puppet, the prim and proper, the dour, the businesswoman, the grouchy woman, the what's her name, who's head of the Supreme Court. No, this is Wonder fucking Woman. She goes past gender into all our she manifests all our relations in one personality. And that's why she's a demigod. Her father was God, her mom was the queen, who lived like 19,000 years. And I loved it when, the Amazon, the Germans are, going after our hero on his little plane because he's got the little secret book. And the whole German Navy's right behind him, right? Oh, we can't go in that big cloud. And the admiral says, screw it. If that guy can fly through there, so can we. So we go in there, and they get on the beach, and they got guns, and they got big, ships with artillery, and the friggin' Amazons with horses, spears, bows and arrows, and shields defeats a modern technological army, a la Avatar and the big blue guys, right? So if you don't give up, if you have a moral backbone, and you realize these guys are putzes, you will win, right? It may take you some time, you might have to sacrifice, there could be a cost, but all that is all right. As long as you have, always look on the bright side of life. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. That's the best part of Life of Brian, right? Love that movie. And, the other Monty Python, bring out your dead. And the old lady throws the guy out the window, goes on the cart, but I'm not dead. And then the guy, you are now. And that's why you guys are the cadre. That's why we won't be the heroes. We won't be, we are the pebble in the pond. And as one of you said, that we are all that little pebble in the pond that will bring love's co-creation as the tsunami to wash away this illusion, to break the bubble. 3 hours and 8 minutes. Woo, we're going along. Still have to finish reading what you guys are saying here. Let's see. Yes, Sensei is the Irish laundromat. Let's see. Butterbox Babes. No, 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 no. I'm going to have to look that one up. And I love you guys just keep giving me stuff. I go look at it, gives me ideas. Oh, yeah. And half the stuff you ask me, you put it in a context that it's not within my frame. So I have to go into my Akashic record or my little magic phone here and take a look. And, oh, that's what they were talking about. And then I go back and talk about it. People with ugly cages, yeah. Until we get the mind, heart, harmony, and life is like heaven. Yep. Busting the bubble of the separate reality of materialism. I went to a leper colony on the Big Island of Hawaii, right? And by this time, antibiotics pretty much, you couldn't get leprosy, right? You really have to try hard. But everyone still didn't. And I went there with a friend of mine who was in a church group, and the church group didn't even freaking go to these people. We did. Man, they had the best place, the best food. They were the most fun. And they looked like the Elephant Man. But that was fine by me. I seen a lot worse. And it was like, can you stay here? Can you be with us? Can you please not leave? And that was one of those places I could have stayed, you know? And on the Big Island, when the mother sky erupts, and so we're gonna put this $1 million Rancho Rio for the rich Hollywood set, and the Japanese and the Chinese guys, and each house is going to be $20 million. Well, Pele lets them build it, lets them put the highways, lets them spend all that money, and then erupts and burns it to the ground, and laughs and makes sure that, the only people there are the bankers and the corporate structure. The innocent folk, the workers, they get to go, right? But at that leprosy hostel, they never had even a rumbling, and they were like in the shadow of all these things that were blowing up. Yep, Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious. Yes, we don't get to program our reality. We get to live in the reality we create with love's co-creation. It's not a part of magic. It's not a part of, no. It's not a make-believe. It's a reality. The make-believe is this world that we call a material. I talk a lot like this, and a lot of people will bust in and go, well, I don't know what world you're living in, but I'm living in the real world, and I gotta kill people, and I gotta be mean and horrible, and I gotta do this just so I can survive. No, you don't. Sorry. Yep, noagendalivestream.com. Yeah, okay, it sounds like me. But I like our name better. Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Alba. But I'm pretty much that. No agenda. I'll take that back. I do have agenda. Gang, what is my agenda? Love's co-creation. That's it. That's the only thing that's real, that exists, that I feel here. Right? Everything else, forget about. Toto. Yes. It's one of the many. That's what I say. And in your library, you have, your librarian, that makes sense. You have your animal totem, and you have your guardian angel. Well, librarian makes sense, right? That's kind of in our frame. Animal totem. I've had a number of people, well, that's not appropriate for in blah, 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 indigenous blah, blah, blah. Well, have you ever lived with any? Well, I'm part blah, blah, blah. Okay, good with that. And then there are others that actually who are indigenous, who are Lakota, who are Sioux, who are my friends. And, I'm watching. This is great, Al. And they go, you're going to get some blowback for this animal totem thing, And they know because, my grandfather David, he's the one who told me friggin' about the totem pole, and that it was a, what's the right word? A spirit guide, But because the tribes are, back from the from being there before anybody else was, they are, one and parcel of all our relations. And when I say all our relations, I just don't mean mom and dad and Betty Lou and my cousins. No, I mean all, from the scaled to the feathered to everybody, right? So when I talk about animal totem, within the construct of a lot of clan folk, that's the word I'm going to use, clan folk. And it's going to, discombobulate so many people because white folk are going to think Ku Klux Klan. But no, why did Ku Klux Klan call themselves Ku Klux Klan? Because they knew they couldn't call themselves a clan. So within the clan construct, close to nature, a lot of those clans did have animal totems. So that's why I use it, because it's well known. And even though some people go, well, I don't know, that's not appropriate, that's, not PC. Well, PC is just another illusion. And you pick it. All those characters you pick. And what does that animal totem do? But through its context of what animal it is, it tells you a story. So you get the information out of your Akashic record and go, well, that's interesting, but I really don't understand it. Then the librarian brings you a couple more books that give you closer and closer and closer. Now you got a whole bunch of things rumbling around in your head in that card catalog, and you're not quite, don't have a frame. You aren't looking at it shamanically. That is what your animal totem does. Your animal totem is a shamanic entity, and then puts it in a frame in a context that you, by telling you a story, just like I do. You guys, I love you guys. Here it is, 3 hours, 15 minutes, right? This whole thing is you. I'm just telling you a story, and it's shamanically opening up, unlocking the lock of your little, bird cage, So, I think we're going to have to close it up. So 3 hours. We're not going to go past 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds. Okay, so that gives us enough time. So let's read some more of your stuff there. You are a conduit doing. You are the conduit. I'm the reflector. Toto is awesome. Cougar, cougar, blue jay, a swallow. All of these animal names are also code names for MK Ultra and CIA and NSA programs. They do the same thing that I do, but they just, they're still little. They serve Satan. I serve love's co-creation, right? They serve Satan, and so I understand those guys and gals are part of all our relations. So I'm not like, oh, they're evil, they're bad. Oh, no. We have to help them with our love to break the bubble so we can all go back to being, and in the beginning, all things were dark. We can write our own script. That's right, guys. A show called Your Life. Exactly. But we have to, that right there, your life, puts it in the context of separation. Our life, right? All our relations' life, right? Right. And the script also is pretty linear, and we don't live in a linear, our consciousness is non-linear. So where you say we can, that's, everything else you could get rid of, but where you just say we can, that's it, right? That's the best part of that whole sentence. Sanka coffee. Drivers, everybody was shooting at JFK like he was in an arcade, Bill Cooper. I knew Bill Cooper pretty well. He was a really sweet guy. He was a teddy bear. But he used to get, a lot of people in that world would get annoyed at me because they didn't realize, I wasn't calling my sensei Al Bob, stuff like that. It just was Al, right? And yes, they knew that I had all this information, I had experience, blah, blah, blah. But when I used to say, guys, I don't believe in anything, Bill Cooper would get upset with me. And he goes, what are you talking about? What I saw, this, blah, blah, blah. I said, Bill, that is your opinion. That's your experience. That's your You know, that's what you believe. I don't believe in that, buddy. I believe in you. I love you. I believe the love. You're a teddy bear. I love that. You know, I kept trying to, but he was a warrior. He was in the Navy. You know, so he was definitely he wanted to die a warrior, not me. You know, I'm dying. You know, in a nice comfy chair, and everyone's going to call me Al Bob or Sensei Al Bob or Grandpa Smurf, and all the little Padawans will be, tell us another story, you know, and I'm just going to go to sleep. You know, after it's all said and done, and everything's, you know, we're all in the bosom of love's co-creation and the power. Tell us another story of how it used to be in the bubble. You know, I'll just kind of smile, and after I've had my fifth cup of teapot and a big bowl of ambrosia, I will just drift away. I don't know what the fuck Jackie was doing. But you know what's really interesting? You should go online. The military videotaped every second from the minute Air Force One landed that OSN. They came off the airport and they got in the open car, and they had the film. You can go online and see the film. And what's truly amazing about that film, he gets off and gets in the Lincoln, the nice car, right? And it's a convertible. And they used to have a bulletproof, clear thing, right? But the people who were running the show, oh, we forgot it. We didn't bring it with us. I mean, Kennedy didn't say, oh, I want to be close to the people. No, he was fine. He went around with the bulletproof top, but he was fine with it, right? Beautiful day. It was nice, spring, blah, 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 whatever time of the year it was. And he gets in it. Now, normally they have these running boards on the side of his car. So the car is circled by a Secret Service. So to shoot him is going to be difficult because you have to shoot the other guys first. Well, along with the bulletproof Lexiglan clear glass top of that Lincoln, they forgot the running boards. So the guys who normally would be circling the president, they were like, the car takes off before anyone says it should. It kind of pulls out in front of everybody and at the airport, and they're kind of doing a slow curve around the audience, everyone at the gate. And so those guys run back and jump on the next Cadillac, which is like a 1959 Cadillac, and it's got not just running boards, like a whole. And so who is in that car but LBJ by himself with a couple of his Dallas cronies, oilmen, right? And they are circled by 12 guys, right? And in front of them, they are circled by motorcycles, right? Around, there's 3 motorcycles on either side, 3 cars and motorcycles in the front, 3 motorcycles in the back. And then there is a state trooper car in front of LBJ and a state trooper car behind him. Whereas Kennedy has none of that. No motorcycles, no guys on the running boards. He's out there alone, just with the governor. So they come from the airport, they go, and the roads are like a mass of people, just covered, right? And they come down the highway, they get off, they kind of come through a number of the major thoroughfares, and the thing that they're supposed to, Cow Palace, is over here. The main highway goes straight that they were on over to the Cow Palace. Well, they about 12 blocks before it, they turn down here, and they turn down here, and they turn here, and turn here, and turn here, and turn here. And as they do, the number of people who are waiting to see Kennedy gets sparser and sparser. So when they come around the bend and go in front of the book depository, there's just a handful of people. I mean, back when they were on the main tour, there was millions of throngs, 20 feet deep. And what's really great about that video is on the YouTube, and it runs for, 40 minutes. But it just shows exactly what happened, right? And then, so when they had to do a hairpin turn, like 90-degree turn, not 90, but like a real 180-degree turn, to go from the road they were on to go in front of the school depository, which then took them under the railroad tracks and put them back on the road right where they got off before they went through all those other streets. I mean, they could have just went straight to the Cow Palace, right? So when they make this 180-degree turn, they actually slowed down. I mean, and by the book, the presidential limousine should not go any less than 20 miles an hour, so you can't get a beat on them. And it's supposed to have the bulletproof plexiglass thing. And it's supposed to have running boards on either side. It's supposed to have motorcycles all around and cars in front and back. Had none of that. And when they took that 108 turn, the car slowed down to 2 miles an hour and stopped. Stopped right in the perfect angle, right past that tree, and stopped. And there was no one to see it, meaning you the movie camera that's kind of behind Johnson, you see Johnson go on the floor of the car once they come into that triangle. He's hiding, and you see one of those guys throw a big heavy blanket, which I bet you dollars to donuts was a bulletproof blanket, right, on top of him. And then they kind of get on top of him. They're right and they slow down even further. So the space between, like when they were going through the throngs of people, the space between LBJ's Cadillac and JFK's Lincoln was maybe 4 car lengths, right? When they come into that place where they're going through these, it gets more and more until it's like almost a block, and they are like, a good block from where and so JF Cars stops, and that's when the bullets ring out, right? And the guy on the motorcycle on LBJ's had his thing keyed, and another guy on another motorcycle had his radio keyed, so they were open, and so the recording of the shooting went down on the Dallas police, because they, police, radios are recorded, since like, World War II or even earlier in big cities. So they had that. So, when they got the computers and stuff and they did an audio forensic investigation of that, they found that there were like 12 shooters. And then that didn't get out into the media, and those tapes were lost. And the guys who did it, 2 of them died. And then the other guys who were on the lower end of the totem pole took jobs with RCA, and just like my friend, my boss at Metro Media, Boop, 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 boop. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. Point blank shot. Yes, and I'm sure it was. I mean, pretty easy to get your head blown off that way. And I don't go into arguments about any of the minutia of any of this stuff. And, and at a certain point, Bill, I said, Bill, I just love you, buddy. You're my buddy, and you're a courageous, I told him who he was. You're a courageous soldier. You're a hero, and then he like, yeah, that's me. And I said, but, you got these little kids, and you got this wife, and you got a life. You can still, look at me. I pursue this, but, you're like putting yourself out as a mark, and you kind of want to, because you feel guilty, because you work for these guys. I went on and on and on like that. And we drank more. He drank more and more, and I smoked a little bit more. And we got to this point that we basically said, okay, I know you, you know me. You're my bud. I love you. You love me. And we kind of, I love you. We were like Tinky Winky, And but he was a brave guy, and he did more. He did a great deal for humanity. Yes. Some people have that need to do that. And all I can say, he's one of America. He should get whatever medal, and in my heart, I don't need to see some government give him a medal or some organization. In my heart is the medal for my friend. And guys, the Illuminati families, they're not in charge. They're just managers. And again, all of these kind of minutia things are basically, it's just part of the illusion, Our task is not to win a war, not to conquer, not to take over, not to, have a French Revolution. Look what happened to the French Revolution. End up in guillotines for all. You got it, buddy. See, Ink. I love you, Ink. You're leading the charge in you're one of the great examples of working out the alternative aesthetic. Jane does a great job. Buddy does a great job. Lauren, is this the first time you've been here, Lauren? You do a great job. Yeah. And the harmony first has to come where in Ink? Ourselves. We have to lead by example. Yep. Again, flat Earth, round Earth, whatever. It's all the same illusion universe. And that's one of the interesting things. It's like the Matrix. Yeah, you want to have a flat Earth? No problem. Let's see. Just tune in now. It's live. Conversation will continue there right at home. It's easy. What's it called? No Agenda Stream.com. Okay, guys. Oh, look, it's coming up. 3 hours and 31 minutes. Okay, in 2 minutes and something seconds, we'll say goodnight. And I'll read the rest of the chat here and talk about it tonight. And so let's all go to No Agenda. Let's just drop on in as the cadre, and that's what we can call ourselves, right? For the pseudonym for the outside world, we're the cadre. Or how about, to make it even bigger, forget the cadre. The cadre is us. We are all our relations. That's how I'm going to, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm Sensei El Bob. I'm going to say, hi, I'm from all our relations. Right? I'm from the human race. Okay, we're getting close here. So we're going to go to noagenda.com, right? That's what it is? No agenda. No, see. So to harmony, DNA. Oh, there it is. To do no agenda. Right now. No agenda. Agenda S. No agendastream.com. Okay, got it. Okay, gang? Right, it's 32:22. We could almost stop here. But no, we're going to stop at 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds because we can. Don't have to, but we can. And it's almost now. Hey, Tucker. Hey, we're all going over to noagendastream.com. And we're going to go over as all our relations. We're just it's a live chat going on right now that our new friend Lauren, and I have a sense that she's an old friend, that she's just speaking up now, and she's, part of the cadre. Yep. Okay, and here it is, 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 7 seconds. So, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will down on earth as in heaven. Give us later. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. This is like when they speed things up. So I love you. You have that protective grace of love's co-creation, and it's 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 29 seconds. 30. 1, 2, 3. I love you guys.